Have you ever wondered, what is a billionaire's secret? What steps do they take to grow their wealth? I'll tell you this much. It's not blind luck. It's all about saving, protecting, and making more money, which this course will teach you. We'll talk about wills, trusts, and estate planning, and how much you should spend on a house, and how to calculate mortgage payments the easy way. This course will help you create the perfect budget, which is really helpful in managing your day-to-day life. I'll teach you how retirement accounts work, and how to pay less in taxes, as well as how to protect your family and your possessions by using the right insurance products. You will learn about investing in stocks, bonds, and commodities, and how to manage risk. And this will all be done with easy and fun exercises using your personal finance Excel dashboard. This course is customized for every country and every currency in the world. No experience is necessary. The great part is, we don't do theory. Instead, you will apply practical concepts to real-world situations. I have years of experience in finance, from working at Goldman Sachs to venture capital and investment firms, including ones that I've founded. I will help you to save, protect, and make your money work for you. Please check out the student reviews to see how so many have benefited from the knowledge they've learned. And last but not least, we're going to have a lot of fun. So let's begin. Good morning and welcome to our 104th weekly webcast. If this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. If you've been with us before, welcome back. And so the way the call works is this is an AMA, meaning ask me anything. You can ask me business questions, personal questions, career questions, etc. Now the call is 3 hours long. Oops, wrong pedal there, sorry. And what we do is, God, this is week number 104 and I still make mistakes. What we do is within 24 hours of the call being finished, if you go to the description field of this YouTube video, you'll be able to click on any question at any point in time to get immediate access to the answer so I can save you time. Great. All right, so first question we've got here is from Ray. Ray is saying, hi, Chris. How do you generate good ideas in a field you like? For example, networking. Yeah. So within networking in general, and there's two ways to answer this. I'm not sure if your question is about networking like Cisco or Juniper routers, or networking like meeting people to get more people to potentially sell a product to. If what you're talking about is networking to get a job, the best thing I can recommend for you is to go to my website and check out a free book I have. Go to harouneducation.com, scroll down, download this book. I promise you, it will help you tremendously. It's a couple hundred pages. It's free. It'll tell you how to get a job or anything you want in business by networking, including customers. And there's several hours of YouTube videos that you can link to from there as well. So hopefully that helps. In terms of the networking sector, what I recommend doing is following titans in that sector on Twitter, or watching videos and interviews with them online. For example, there's a friend of mine who's been the keynote speaker at a couple of my venture capital conferences named Andy Bechtolsheim. Read everything about that guy. There's a great book by Isaacson, Walter Isaacson, the guy that wrote the Steve Jobs book. And that book is called The Innovators. Read that whole book as well. Andy's in it, and he talks a lot about the learners, meaning a husband and wife team that founded Cisco. Learn their secrets, their blueprints. And when it comes to starting a company, I think the best thing to do is to rely on people that have already done it. And so people that become very, very successful, after a while, what they want to do is they want to help others. And a lot of them help others along the way. And so a lot of them have biographies and autobiographies as well. And so there's a ton of books written about Cisco, Juniper, and other networking companies. But I would pay particular attention to anything that Andy Bechtolsheim says. So Andy was the very first employee at Sun Microsystems. He also founded a company called Granite Systems, DSSD, and many others that got acquired. He's never actually started a company that wasn't successful. And he was also the very first employee at Google, or pardon me, the very first investor at Google. And Andy cut them a check, Larry and Sergey, for 100 grand. And then a couple weeks later, he noticed the check wasn't cashed. And so he called Larry and Sergey, and he said, is everything okay? I noticed you haven't cashed the check. And Larry and Sergey actually didn't know how to do it. It's true. It's a true story. And so Andy had to tell them, well, you got to open a bank account first and register your company name. And then eventually they brought in Eric Schmidt years later, who was the wonderful former CEO of Novell, to run the company. But if you want to learn about these industry titans in any sector, just be a voracious reader of biographies or listen to audiobooks, which is what I do. I actually listen to a couple of audiobooks every single month now. Go to audible.com to learn more. I'm not sponsored by anybody, nor will I ever be. Thank you for that question. Okay, next question is from Ray, who's saying a little bit off topic, but what would you do if you understand you're in the first stage of Alzheimer's? Yeah. Whew. Well, I'm sorry to hear that if you're talking about a loved one or yourself. Yeah, I mean, it's genetic. It's in my family as well. My uncle in Texas just passed away, and he had that as well. God bless him. And Uncle Edward, if you're watching, I know you are right now. I love you and I miss you so much. But what I recommend doing is finding out all the illnesses that people in your family have had generations before as well. Because what you can do is you can nip it in the bud early on. I'm not saying there's a cure for Alzheimer ahead of time. However, what I did was I had my DNA sequenced years ago. And the results stated that there's actually a 68% chance, or a high chance, I should say, of me developing AMD, which is age-related macular degeneration, meaning my eyesight would go down. And I asked my mom about it. She said, "Oh my goodness, your grandfather had that as well." God bless him. He passed away as well. I love you, miss you too, Grandpa. And so what I did was I actually went to my doctor, and I asked him to set up an appointment with an eye doctor. And my eyes are fine now. However, he has me take this relatively benign zinc substance, which is organic, so that the chances of me getting AMD or my eyesight going down will decrease a lot. So it's kind of like that movie Minority Report. I remember that great 2002 movie by Steven Spielberg with Tom Cruise. But instead of the pre-crime group determining what crimes people are going to commit later in life, it's sci-fi. I believe that if you get your DNA sequenced, you can do the same thing when it comes to your health. You know, you can find out what illnesses you might get, and then you can medicate now if needed. Obviously, talk to a doctor. I'm not a doctor at all, but you can nip it in the bud that way. But I'm very sorry if someone in your family is going through this. My thoughts and prayers are with you. Little side note, though, in terms of recording yourself for future generations. So whenever I teach, I love helping others. I do. I love this. But I always feel like I'm talking to my children in the future and teaching them as well. And they can always go back and watch this. And if you're blessed enough to have many relatives older than you that are still alive, and if you've never visited the country that they were born in, then what I recommend you do is this. What I recommend is you go to Google Earth and you get people in your family that are older to walk you through where they grew up. And I had my dad do this as well. And you can record if you want to. But my dad grew up in Egypt, 2 hours south of Cairo, in a wonderful city called Sohag. I've never been there. But I had my dad walk me through what a day in the life was like for him as a kid living along the Nile River. You know, he showed me where he used to go to get fresh bread, as well as the Coptic church he went to as well. So if you have relatives that are still with us, I would have them run through Google Earth just to show you where they grew up, and just document it as well. You can save that. It's like a time capsule forever. And if you can't see your family right now because they're overseas or because of COVID, which is unfortunate, you can always connect with them over Zoom and do a Zoom call the exact same way and ask them to record their screen. And you can record the entire Zoom call if you want to, and have them walk through Google Earth where they grew up, etc. Yeah. Okay. Next question is, if you don't like using discounted cash flow to value companies, then what other methodologies do you use? Yeah. So in business schools, what they teach you is to value a company based on the future cash flow a company is going to make, which is logical. It makes sense because the value of a company is the amount of cash it's going to make in the future. And when it comes to discounted cash flow, what you do is you figure out how much money a company is going to make within the next 10, 15 years, whatever it is. And then what you do is between years 11 and infinity, you enter in what's called the terminal value, and then you set up a special interest rate called a weighted average cost of capital. And then you discount that last year, the terminal value, back to today. The problem with DCF is that there's so many unknown variables that over 90% of the value of the company that is based on your financial model is between years 11 and infinity, meaning the terminal value. And that's illogical. It doesn't make sense. There's so many unknown variables, and I hate DCF because of that. Now, the problem with DCF is this. If I told you that x plus 1 equals 3, what is x? Of course, it's 2. If I told you x plus 1 plus p plus w plus microphone plus watch plus q equals 3, what is x? No idea. That's what DCF is. There's too many unknown variables. So what I prefer to DCF, and I still do look at it, but what I prefer is price earnings and price to revenue. Let me kick it off with price to revenue first. So for a lot of companies, they're not profitable, especially the early stage ones. And I've invested in a lot of software companies and private companies when I worked in venture capital. And it was hard to value them based on earnings because they're not profitable. So what you do is you can value them initially based on price to revenue. And so every time you hear of a mathematical formula within accounting and finance, don't memorize what that means, please. Understand it. Otherwise, you'll get a D in accounting like I did, right? And it's a little bit ridiculous. I'm teaching accounting now, but I got a D the first time I took it because I was memorizing accounting and not understanding it. So let's talk about understanding financial ratios. So when it comes to price to revenue, the numerator is price, the denominator is revenue. And from now on, whenever you think of any fraction, I want you to think of the denominator as being the number 1. And here's why. So price divided by revenue, that means for every $1 in revenue, how many times are people willing to pay the price for that company? So if the price to revenue is 20 times, what that means is for every $1 that company makes in revenue, which is the same thing as sales, for every $1 that company makes in revenue, investors are willing to pay 20 times. And it's a little bit elusive and difficult to value companies that way. However, a lot of companies are not profitable. And so I remember back in the summer of 2012, when these wonderful software companies went public that I invested in, including ServiceNow, ticker NOW. And then you also have Splunk, ticker SPLK, as well as Workday, ticker WDAY. Wonderful software companies. And they weren't very profitable when they went public. And so we value them based on price to revenue. And at that point in time, the price to revenue multiple that we slapped on those companies when determining the target price we wanted to set for those companies, the price to revenue was between 15 and 20 times. So for Splunk, ServiceNow, and Workday, for example, for every $1 those companies made in revenue, not profit, revenue, investors were willing to pay 15 to 20 times. And I mention that because when you value companies based on price to revenue, you have to look at what other companies in the sector that are similar are trading at, and you have to look at their growth rate as well. The last thing I'll say valuation-wise is my favorite way to value companies is based on price to earnings, P to E. And similar to the methodology I mentioned before of putting 1 on the denominator, price divided by earnings means for every $1 in earnings on the denominator, how many times that $1 are investors willing to pay? So if the price to earnings of a company is 20 times, that means for every $1 in earnings on the denominator, investors are paying 20 times that $1. And so the way to think about price to earnings is to look at the growth rate of earnings as well. And here's how it works. And I'm going to oversimplify things, but this will make a lot of sense, I think. So the S&P 500, which is a collection of 500 stocks that make up the U.S. economy, the S&P 500, historically speaking, has traded around 15 times earnings. And the average company in the S&P 500 has earnings growth historically of, let's just say, 15%. So 15 times earnings and 15%. So there's a ratio called the PEG ratio, which looks at the price to earnings ratio divided by growth. So 15 times earnings divided by 15% roughly is 1. Okay, 1. That's a PEG, price earnings growth ratio of 1. If a company is growing at 30% earnings year over year, it should trade at a price earnings ratio of 30 at a minimum, which means a PEG ratio of 1. That's price earnings 30 divided by 30% growth rate. So that's how to think about it. And if a company is only growing earnings at 8% per year, then it should trade at a PE of 8 times at a minimum, right? So that's PEG, price earnings divided by growth. 8 divided by 8% growth is 1. So if you see a company trading at a price to earnings ratio, or a PEG ratio, I should say, of 2 times, that means it's trading at twice its growth rate, and that's too expensive. And a lot of hedge funds look to short those stocks as long as they're not crowded. That's what I used to do in my previous life when I worked in the hedge fund industry. And so companies that are too expensive relative to their growth rate are not great investments. Are not great investments in the long run. So if a company is trading at 20 times earnings and the growth is only 10%, then 20 over 10 is a PEG of 2. Too expensive. Last thing I'll say in this, in terms of valuing companies, you ever notice how a company reports earnings and they miss by like 30% and the stock gaps down 30%? It's because people value the company based on price to earnings. And if earnings are 30% lower than expected, then the stock should reflect that immediately in many cases. Now, if you have additional questions about that, please let me know. But the bottom line is when you're valuing companies, you never want to just look at one methodology. You want to look at 2 or 3. So that when you value companies based on 2 or 3 methodologies, if you take the average target price of all 3 methodologies, then it minimizes your margin of error, because predicting the future is tough when it comes to coming up with target prices. Okay. The next question is, when you make a course, do you go and take a look at similar courses before publishing it? I mean, not so much. If I do that, then I won't be creative. I love to actually create courses and teach based on my experience without being biased by anybody. And so with my business plan course and what I teach my MBA students, quite often my students ask me, have you ever heard of this Canva or Canvas business plan methodology? I don't even know what that is. I've heard of it, but I love to teach based on my experience and not based on theory at all. However, if you want to make a course, and I have a course that already covers that topic on Udemy, then what I recommend doing is going to my course page and filtering based on 1-star ratings. 5 is tops, 1 is worst. And I have a lot of 1-star ratings. But filter based on 1-star ratings and see why people rated my courses poorly, which happens a lot. Sometimes too much. But see why people rated my courses poorly. And then what you can do is make a better version of my course. And that's educational Darwinism. You know, the best courses rise to the top. And we're all in this together. And competition is good for the consumer, which is the student. So that's what I would do. Yeah. All right. But in general, when I make courses, like a lot of the times, what I like to do, grab my coffee here, is I like to think of a massive total addressable market. Like, never start a company in a market that's tiny. Because if you get 100% of a tiny market, so what? It's not going to move the needle. And so I always think of a very large TAM before I invest or before I make courses. TAM stands for total addressable market. And a lot of great venture capital firms like Kleiner Perkins, for example, and I had a partner from Kleiner Perkins guest lecture in my class a couple of years ago. What they do at Kleiner Perkins is quite often they'll never invest in a company that doesn't have a TAM of at least $20 billion. And the reason is because in the unlikely event that that company does well, and most venture capital investments go belly up, but in the unlikely event that that company does extraordinarily well and captures 5% market share of a $20 billion market, then that means annual revenue of $1 billion. 5% of 20 billion is $1 billion, which is pretty darn good. So you always want to start companies and create courses when there's a massive total addressable market. And the way to find the total addressable market is to do a search on total addressable market, or TAM, and the name of a sector. And a lot of times these great consulting firms like Gartner, Forrester, McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group, Bain, Accenture, etc. A lot of times those aforementioned consulting firms will release reports for the general public that will list what the total addressable market is. However, if you can't find the total addressable market for a company or a sector, then what you can do is take the annual revenue for the top 20 or so companies in that sector. And that's a good enough proxy for the total addressable market. Yeah. And I know some of you are watching right now and thinking, Chris, what if the market doesn't exist yet? It actually does. Hear me out. So if you're Uber a decade ago or whatever, and you're starting an online taxi company, the market does exist. It's just a traditional market you're disrupting. In that case, it was the traditional taxi market. The same thing with LinkedIn. You know, when LinkedIn was founded back in 2003 or whatever it was by Reid Hoffman after he left PayPal, the size of the online recruiting market was tiny. However, the size of the offline traditional bricks and mortar recruiting sector was massive. Yeah. And if you have additional questions about that, please let me know. And thank you as always. Okay. Next up, Ray is asking, can you give an example of a company that is in the stage between being a growth stock and a value stock? Yeah. So I would say that, all companies most companies are wonderful growth companies once they go public. You know, it's Darwinism from a company perspective. Only very successful companies go public. But eventually, companies that are growing very, very fast, growth slows obviously because of the law of large numbers. So for example, the United States economy, which is responsible for close to a third of the revenue of the world, meaning GDP of the world. The US economy is so big that it's never going to grow more than single digits. It's not their fault. They're just a victim of their own success. And I shouldn't use the word victim. They've been successful. So because of the law of large numbers, they cannot grow fast anymore. The same thing happens with a lot of companies. And so the difference between growth and value in 30 seconds is this. A growth investor buys stocks that are growing fast, but they're expensive. They're expensive for a reason. A value investor like Warren Buffett, God bless him, he's 90 now, it's amazing. A value investor will buy stocks that are not growing fast, but they're cheap. That's the difference. And every growth stock eventually becomes a value stock, but you never want to buy a stock when it's transitioning between growth and value, because people are usually growth or value investors. When it transitions in the middle, I refer to that as investment purgatory. And it can take a decade to transition from growth to value. And sometimes you have private equity investors that will come in and actually make that 10 years much, much shorter, which is what Carl Icahn did with eBay when he forced the company to break up into two pieces. Core eBay, which value investors love because the marketplace business does well actually in a recession, because people even sell more stuff when it's there's a recession. And then the growth investors loved PayPal as well, because PayPal is a high growth entity. So just be careful never to invest in a company that's in the middle, okay? Because the likelihood of growth or value investors buying it immediately is quite low, yeah. Okay, next up, Ray is asking, what books on Audible would you recommend? I like to underline some paragraphs. I missed that feature there, yeah. I know what you're talking about. pardon me. So when I read books on Kindle, and I read a lot of books now, what I do is there's a feature in Kindle where you can find out what places other people underlined. I love that feature. Of course, that's not available in Audible. So in terms of what books to read on Audible, I would just read a biography or autobiography on whoever inspires you. Like anything from Sir Richard Branson, especially the ones he narrates, because that guy oozes positivity. He's amazing. So whoever's a rock star to you in business, whoever you aspire to become like, just listen to those biographies of those people. Because a lot of them got very successful because they love imparting their knowledge or sharing with others why they're successful. And so their blueprint is there. It's free for you. Why reinvent the wheel? Do a search on your favorite business people and listen to their biographies or autobiographies on Audible, because that's their blueprint for success. And it'll help you work smarter and not harder. Okay, next up, the question is, hold on a second. And let me just do a quick check to see if there's any complaints. No. Okay, great. We're good. Sometimes the audio quality is not great. Okay, next question is, what are your wife's rock stars or mentors apart from you? And then you wrote Oprah question mark. Yeah, she likes Oprah a lot. Yeah. Let me think about that. Who does she aspire? Who does she really respect? I know she likes Elon Musk a lot because she's very very pro environment like I am, which is why there's green in my corporate logo right there. See the arrow pointing up. So she respects anybody that is a proponent to preserving this wonderful planet we live on. Aside from that, gosh, I don't know. I've never actually talked to her about rock stars in business for her. Yeah, so, yeah. All right. It's certainly not me. Okay. Next question is, it seems if you want to be a thought leader, that not all topics are suitable for LinkedIn. For example, healthy lifestyle as a topic doesn't fit there. What is your opinion? Yeah, I think it does fit there. And so I think if you can help people be more productive in business through health tips, I think that fits in. It's the aspect of business which is called personal growth. And there's a massive market for that. And Tony Robbins will post items on LinkedIn every now and then, and he motivates people through personal growth. And I think that healthy lifestyle is a personal growth topic as well, which is very suitable for business. And then Ray wrote, thanks for all your input and wish you a nice weekend. Thank you. You too. Okay, next question is from Kim, who's saying, hi, Chris. Hope you and your family are doing well. Likewise. Has the wildfire smoke improved where you are? Yeah, so so for those of you not familiar with what's happening, in California, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. We have a lot of fires. And on Sunday morning, 2 weeks ago, at 3:30 in the morning, we had the first lightning we've seen since 2005. And as a result, a bunch of fires started. North of me, in Napa Valley, inland of me, I live by the water, and then south of me as well, in places like Woodside. And so 1.25 million acres are burning, and we smell it. We smell it here. I'm indoors with air conditioning. I don't smell it right now. But when I go outdoors, I do. And so my wife bought a bunch of these air purifiers. They look like R2-D2. They're quite big. And so if the reading is above 50, it's very dangerous. If it's below 50, it's not very dangerous. And so right now in our house, as of last night, it's 22, which is fine. And I actually took it outdoors, the unit, because I was just curious, what it would say. And I felt if I could purify all the air outdoors, I would help people. No, I'm just kidding. That's bad dad humor. But I took it outdoors and I left it for like 20 minutes. And it said it was 28. Okay. And 50 again is dangerous. So it's annoying. We smell it. It smells a bit like a campfire. And God willing, they'll put these fires out quickly. But I got to tell you, man, 2020 has been just a nutty year. Nutty year. So much crap has happened. You could tell me, dude. You could tell me, Chris, aliens just landed in Alaska. And I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. Like we're all numb to the pain of 2020. Yeah. It's kind of like in work when you have a lot of stress on you, and then a lot more stress gets put on you. If your stress level is full, you're not going to feel it. Yeah. Okay. And you wrote here, copywriting a book. Do you have to get it? Do you have to get a book copyrighted in each individual country if it's published or sold in? Yeah. Well, you don't have to copyright anything, but you can if you want to. And so let me explain really quickly intellectual property. And I'm not a lawyer at all, please. But there's copyright, trademark, and patents. Copyright means you don't want somebody to copy something you can't see, feel, or touch, like code or the contents of a stream or a video online, which is what I do. That's copyright. Now, if you die, 50 years after you die, it's no longer copyrighted. And that's why music from Bach, Beethoven, and Handel and stuff, and Chopin, is very, very cheap because nobody owns the copyrights to that. Trademarks. Trademarks means a brand that you don't want anybody to copy. So, for example, Haroun Education Ventures is trademarked. Nobody can copy that. Then there's patents. And you file patents if you want to protect the way you do something. So, for example, Amazon filed patents years ago for one-click shopping. So when it comes to copywriting a book, what I recommend doing, and I'm not comped by anybody, but what I recommend doing is going directly to LegalZoom.com. This is where I get a lot of my legal stuff done, and it's cheap too. LegalZoom. It's only $30 for a half-hour call for a business, $15 for an individual, which is pretty cheap for lawyers, but they do speak really slowly. Just kidding. That was bad dad humor. I'll stop there. But you can talk to any lawyer you want to here. So if you want, you can go to this website. Again, I'm not sponsored by anybody. I never will be. I'm not going to sell out. But you can talk to lawyers that cover these three sectors here, which are the three aforementioned intellectual property topics that I mentioned. Now, when it comes to copywriting your stuff overseas, it gets a little bit complicated. But what happened was in the late 1980s, about 100 political leaders from 100 countries got together in Madrid. And they created what's called the Madrid Protocol. And the Madrid Protocol basically says, if you honor my intellectual property, I'll honor your stuff as well. It's not perfect, doesn't always work perfectly, but it's helpful. And for countries that violate copyrights and they turn a blind eye, the punishment is just going to be that other countries won't do business with them. And so China, for example, has gotten a lot better when it comes to intellectual property. It's not perfect, and there's tensions between countries because of it. So the CFO of Huawei, which is a company that makes technology products, got arrested in Canada. And Huawei is a Chinese company because they copy other people's products. It's getting better, but it's still an issue. It's still an issue. Yeah, and trade wars start because of these things as well. Now, when it comes to Microsoft Windows, for example, as a case study in China. So back in the 1990s, Microsoft Windows was copied in China a lot, to the extent that 98% at one point of all versions of Microsoft Windows in China were copied. It's fraudulent. And it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like, I think what Bill Gates was thinking at the time was, yeah, this sucks. However, we've got first mover advantage. Let's just get market share and then we can monetize it later. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah. All right. But there's some countries where it's tough, man. Like I remember I copyrighted a ton of my stuff maybe in 2016. And I did it in many countries, many regions. However, my lawyers, my international lawyers I contacted, they couldn't do the United Kingdom because of Brexit at the time. There was no precedent for it. So it is quite nebulous and confusing. So what I recommend doing is just go to LegalZoom and talk to a lawyer there. Yeah. All right. Next question is, what do you feel are your personal attributes that have contributed to you building a great team? Yeah. So I give my employees a lot of autonomy. And I don't believe in bureaucracy at all. In fact, I bought for my wife for Christmas a mug, and on the coffee mug it said, I'm now attending another meeting that could have been an email. So I despise meetings unless they're absolutely necessary. Absolutely necessary, because like a lot of times you work in big companies, and they're not all like this, but a lot of big companies, you have people that are trying to rise through the ranks by building their empire. And so they'll set up a lot of meetings and create a lot of red tape, which destroys the corporate culture. It creates barriers, and it tarnishes innovation as well. So I think that a great leader is somebody that gives their employees a lot of autonomy, and provides a lot of feedback. The last thing I'll say about that is there's a great CEO named Godfrey Sullivan. And I got to know him when I was an investor years ago in Hyperion, which is a business intelligence company that Oracle bought. He then went on to become the CEO of a wonderful company called Splunk. And Godfrey, and I have a lot of friends that work for Godfrey or worked for him. He's no longer the CEO. He retired. He's awesome, though. And I would ask my friends that work for him, why is Godfrey so great? And they said, well, one of the many reasons Godfrey Sullivan is an awesome CEO is because he praises in public and criticizes only in private if needed. There's nothing worse than being berated or criticized by your boss. So in front of your peers, it's awful. It's awful. So I think you should always praise in public and only criticize in private, and give your employees as much autonomy as you possibly can. It'll be better for the corporate culture as well. And in terms of culture in general, I have a no bully policy. And it's the same way with my MBA degree program. So with my platinum and gold students, on day one for last year, when we started on December 2nd, I told everybody, we're all in this together. It's pass or fail, which means that you encourage more teamwork. I don't believe in forced grading curves, which happens at a lot of business schools. And also, there's no bullying allowed, period. And my students in my first class, my platinum and gold students, are amazing. They're incredible. There hasn't been any bullying at all. But the second you see bullying, one data point doesn't make a trend, but if it happens, more than once, you have to warn people. And if it's a company, let them go. Let them go. There's absolutely no room for corporate bullying, ever. So anyway, it's not high school. And I believe, lastly, in small groups of people working together. 2 women or men in a garage can change the world. But the second you have too many people in one meeting, it becomes chaos. And we all know what that means, because we've all been in group projects at school or in business where there's too many people in a meeting and nothing gets done. And Amazon still runs like a startup. It still runs like a startup to the extent that Jeff Bezos doesn't allow any meeting to take place that requires more than 2 pizzas to feed the team. It's called the 2-pizza rule. And that way you stay agile, smaller, nimble, etc. And you can be much more productive. All right, the next question is, what are your thoughts on Start Engine that Kevin O'Leary from Shark is a spokesperson for? How does it differ from the other investment companies you previously mentioned? Yeah, I'm not familiar with that, I'm sorry. But when it comes to Shark Tank, and I met a bunch of people that have been on it, pitching their business models, what will happen is when you watch Shark Tank, there's a 10 or 15 minute segment on an entrepreneur and them pitching their business model. And the most interesting or controversial stuff gets syndicated, put out there on the show. The reality is this, though. For every person you see pitching a business model on Shark Tank, they actually are pitching it for 1 to 2 hours. And then the editors just take the greatest hits of what they think is interesting enough. And then they publish that. Yeah. But I think that ideas are commodities, but execution is not. And that's a wonderful quote from Mark Cuban, who, of course, is one of the panelists on Shark Tank. And he also said this: you only have to be right in business one time. I love that quote from him. And so you got to keep trying. You got to keep trying and failing over and over and over again, because you'll never make it big unless you fail first many times. Okay. Next question is from Rohit. Rohit, how are you, man? It's been a while. It's been a while. So Rohit is saying, hope all is well. When will the MBA applications for next year's program get accepted or rejected emails? My friend applied as a legacy student. Okay, yeah. As part of early admissions. Yeah. So I'll show you where you can get all the dates from. So if you go here to my website, HarounEducation.com, you can either click up here to go and find out the important dates, or we can use just mouse over. So this program here, Silver, you can start today. There's no application actually, but to get accepted into Gold or Platinum, you have to apply. And so early admission has closed. It ended on the 15th of August. However, you can still apply. So if I mouse over right here, here we go. Yeah. So we can run through this quickly. So September 15th is the Gold and Platinum early admission acceptance. I'll send out acceptance there as well to your friend who applied. And then there's an application deadline for regular admission, which is October 15th. And then you can just read through the rest there. And then we start on December 14th. And it's a one-year program. And for those that are interested, you can go to my website, HarounEducation.com. And if you want, you can read through student testimonials. In the first class, I have 158 students. There's a 30-day 100% money-back guarantee after we start. So I had 2 students ask for money back. So we have 158 students now from 41 countries. And I have a lot of testimonials here by just a ton of students in many, many different countries. And they're great. And they're like family to me. And I got to know them all great today. They're great as well. And the reason why, I don't know if you can see it behind me. Let me change camera angles. The reason why I have this back here is that's actually a timer. Because every Thursday, what I do is I do 20-minute one-on-ones with my students, confidential. And you get several hours of one-on-one meetings as well. So that's why that timer is there. Yeah, so just go to my website, HarounEducation.com, and you can read up on frequently asked questions as well. And thank you. Okay. Next up is Melody. And Melody is our wonderful teacher from Atlanta. Yeah, and she just published a course on Udemy, which is great. And you guys should check it out. Do a search on her name, Melody Johnson. So Melody is saying, good morning, Chris. Hope you and your family are having a blessed day. Likewise. I want to let you know what I am being, that I'm being published. Oh, cool. In a group author book called One Habit. It comes out in 3 weeks. Very cool. Very cool. And let me know when it's out, because what I do is with all students that use my book template, which is free, I buy their books, I read them, and I profile them here live on this call every Thursday. And to write a book, and anybody can do it, all you have to do is go to my website and go to HarounEducation.com / all lowercase, write book, all one word, write book lowercase. And there's a template that I provide you with. And it's a template that I've used to make tons of my books, including this one here. It's 6 inches by 9 inches. If you know how to use Microsoft Word and a browser, you can publish a book for free. That's right. I teach you on 1 page of instructions, how to publish it on Amazon Print, Amazon Kindle, and Audible as well. And where to go to get the graphics for the cover, and then all that other great stuff. And everybody should write a book, and we all have it in us. And the wonderful thing is it's free, and you can also bring it with you to interviews and show them a book or informational meetings even that you publish. Who does that? How badly do you want that job? And you can even give it to potential customers when you go to meetings, and just give it to them. You know, it'll impress them, and it's a lot of fun too. And it feels great to write a book, and anybody can do it. And dedicate it to your parents, please. All right. And then Melody's writing here. Now I have to finish my own book that I started with you. I can't wait to see it. And then you wrote, I'm still working on several classes, but I'm working on my YouTube channel as well. Awesome. Awesome. And then you said, I decided to come out with at least 3 videos a week. Oh, I love it. I love it. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And YouTube is the only gold rush in history where it costs you nothing to make the product. And YouTube is also the only gold rush in history where you can get immediate access to potentially billions of customers for free. And I really do believe that we're going to look back years from now and say that this was the golden age of content, and that we all wish that we had written more or created more YouTube videos. Yeah, that's great though. I'm looking forward to seeing them. Okay. And you wrote you're going to be doing a refresher on my YouTube course today. Awesome, awesome. Thank you. And actually, the person who I made that YouTube course with is named Sasha Stevenson, and I met her on week number 10. We're on week 104 now, and she's from Indonesia, and she has over 100 million views. She's a rock star in Indonesia. So I made that course with her on Udemy. It was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot. And dude, the best way to learn something is to teach it, because when one teaches, two learn. All right, next up is Srinivas. Hey, Sri, is saying, hi, Chris. As an undergraduate interested in business, how do you decide getting into consulting versus something trendy like product management? Yeah. So if you're confused as to what to do in business, I recommend consulting, because you get exposed to many different types of companies, and usually you stay there for a couple of years, then you move on to something else. But it's a great introduction to business. So when I graduated undergrad back in 1994 from McGill University, I started out at Accenture, consulting firm. And I spent 4 years there, and then I left to go to business school. But I learned a ton. And I figured out what my passion was while I worked there as well. So I think that's great. Now, a lot of people that are confused as to what they should do, I recommend doing a job where you're creating something, you're originating. And I'll give you 3 examples. One is consulting, because you create the corporate strategy for a company, you originate it, and you're marketable after that. Another one is investment banking, because you're creating the IPO documents or the M&A work. And so you're creating the product. And if you don't like creating the product in finance, you can always move on to selling the product, marketing the product, investing in the product, etc. But origination, you thoroughly understand a product when you originate it. The third and final example is to work in technology, programming, or creating a product. Because if you don't like it, after a while, you can move on and sell the product, market the product, manage the product, do marketing for the product, which is product management you kind of mentioned there as well. So the bottom line is, if you're confused as to what to do, start in an origination job initially and then move on, because it's easier to get any other type of job in a sector if you've created the product first. Yeah. Okay. Next question is, hello, Chris. Which gaming monitor do you recommend under $300? Yeah. Whoa, that's tough. Yeah. I think I bought an Asus for my son. It's so interesting because my 3 sons, they're into video games like I am. And we have a nice big TV, which are cheap now, of course. And they don't like using it because of lag. It's not fast enough. And they don't like using wireless controllers either, because it's not fast enough. They love it to be wired. But they look at the frame rate or the refresh rate, and they want it to be at least 60, hopefully closer to 120. And when it comes to Fortnite, I don't play it, they do. But they want the ping to be as low as possible, which is kind of a new word for me. Yeah. But yeah, I generally, I bought it for Andrew, the gaming monitor. I think it was an Asus, directly from Best Buy. But I think that you should buy stuff on Amazon, because if you go to Best Buy's website, it's ridiculous because everything is 4 or 5 stars, right? It's I don't know if the reviews are rigged or what. It just doesn't make sense to me. Go to Amazon because the reviews are awesome. Buy a product that's 4.5 stars or higher always, and make sure there's 8 gazillion people that have written reviews about it as well. Yeah. And their customer service is great, because a company is only as good as their customer service, and Amazon is king at that. Next question is from Ramon, who's saying, hey, everyone. I hope you're all having a great day. Likewise. I'm working on my next upload to my official YouTube channel, which is called Get Rich Pinoy. Cool. And then you wrote, my topic is going to focus on improving sales performance by focusing on value for customers instead of brute forcing your way with a spec sheet or something. Do you have any key points regarding this topic? Let me think about that. So I would say that in this day and age, it is so competitive and the barriers are so low for entering any industry that I think if you want to be successful in business, you have to add a tremendous amount of value first before you sell the product. And so what I do is I have my courses, 10% of them are always free. If you just go and you can look at free previews. And my courses have 30-day money-back guarantees, always, always, always. And I service the heck out of my customers as well. And as a teacher, I treat my students like they're the customer because they are, and the customer's always right. So the bottom line there is you always want to give away something for free. And if it's an app, for example, there's a freemium version and then a premium version. So add value first. And secondly, have impeccable customer service because a company is only as good as its customer service. All right. And then next up, Brendan is saying, hey, Chris, sorry for missing your hours last week. No worries, please. Then you wrote, I appreciated your advice on charity and to focus more on donating time than money. Thank you. Yeah. And that was a question I answered a while back on Henry Kravis. So Henry Kravis basically created the private equity market. And he went to my business school years before I did. And he's donated an insane amount of money to Columbia, my alumni. And he was a straight C student, by the way. But those are the highest grades. Don't, make it big in life. It's those that can network. And he certainly can. But when he gave a speech for an hour and a half, and I was right there beside him, I couldn't wait to hear him talk about it. And I thought he was going to talk about the MBO or management buyouts of the National Biscuit Company, Nabisco, which he did in the 80s, and all these other great deals. He didn't do that. He just talked about how important it is for you to donate your time rather than just money. And I don't agree with people that say, well, I'm going to wait until I make it big, and then I'll give away a ton of money, when I'm older. So I think you should give your time now. We're all in this together, and our goal should be to serve others. And our goal should also be to leave this planet in a better condition by doing our part than when we entered it. The next question is, all right, hold on a second, guys. It jumps on me sometimes. Oh, it drives me nuts. All right, hold on a second. I got to turn this on and catch up with where you guys were. I'm sorry about this, guys. Give me 1 second. While I do this, you can check out my nerdy studio here. 1 second. 1 second. Thanks. All right. The next question is, I coach a high school women's swim team, and I've been trying to think of ways that they could safely stay involved with the community during COVID. So far, I've only thought of online tutoring and maybe Meals on Wheels. But do you have any recommendations? Yeah. So I would say that a great way to stay busy is to use what you have and teach online courses. And as Seth Godin said, you already have everything you need to build something far bigger than yourself. You do. If you have a cell phone and internet connection at home, high speed, you can teach. That's all you need. That's all you need. And if you think you need expensive equipment, you don't. And if you're curious what kind of resolution you can get, audio and video quality from just using your iPhone or Android handset, you can go to my Instagram page. It's Chris Haroun, all one word. Chris Haroun, yeah. And just scroll down and look at an interview that I did for Instagram Live with Udemy. It was a great interview. I'm humbled they asked me. But I did all that with my cell phone, the audio and the video. And you can get resolution like what you see right here just using your cell phone. Yeah. But I think everybody should teach. And everybody has something to teach. They do. Everybody does. And Ninja, who's a big Fortnite celebrity, he started out actually teaching on Udemy how to use Twitch, which is a software product Amazon owns that allows you to stream games. And that's where he got his start. He's done incredibly well. Anybody can teach. All right. Next up, Digi Art Studio saying, hey, Chris, how are you? I'm great. Thank you. My son Andrew actually yesterday afternoon, he's 16, he got his driver's license. So I'm proud of him. It's awesome. However, we're looking into insurance now. And one thing that really bugs me is if you're a guy, like a teenage guy, your insurance is ridiculously higher than if you're a teenage woman. And I don't think that's fair at all. So anyway, something that kind of bothers me. I was talking to my wife about it. It's completely unfair. By the way, little side note, if because of COVID, you're not using your car as much as you used to, I want you to call your insurance company and ask them to give you a lower rate because you're not going to be driving as much because of COVID. You can do that. All you got to do is ask. Okay. Next up, as a personal goal of mine, I'm trying to write a book by 2024, but I'm torn on what topic to write about. On the one hand, I want to write a sports novel about the breaststroke. This thing, right? I used to do that, yeah. And then he wrote here, I swam at the national level in college, very cool. And I would interview people at multiple talent levels for their varying perspectives. That's a great idea. And then he wrote here, on the other hand, and I've got ideas for you, I'll tell you in a second. On the other hand, I've thought about writing a full-scale science fiction book. It seems very daunting, but I think that I've come up with an interesting concept. The swimming idea is very niche, but it's something that I'm very, very knowledgeable with. The sci-fi book, I think, could appeal to a wider audience, but it could be a much larger undertaking. Which should I write? Yeah. So I would say whatever you're passionate about, because if you think of this with this first, this is going to work much, much better. You know, and the same thing when it comes to your job. You know, do what you're passionate about. You know, Mark Twain said, the two most important days in your life are, number one, the day you're born, and number two, the day you find out why. What's your why? Write what you're passionate about. But if you're going to write, you just got to be resilient, like a pit bull on a pork chop, and just understand that it might take a while before you get published by a big publishing house, if you want to even use a publishing house. And there's great precedents for this. Agatha Christie, she couldn't get any publisher to publish her book for years. She kept trying. The same thing with C.S. Lewis. Nobody would sign him up. The same thing with John Grisham, and of course the same thing with J.K. Rowling, who had like 20 or 30 publishers say no. You just got to be resilient and understand after every no that you're getting closer to a yes. Yeah. In terms of the total addressable market, yeah, I think sci-fi is much, much bigger. More people are interested in sci-fi than reading a book about swimming. But if you're passionate about swimming, do it. And here's a way to do it, actually. This will be interesting. So I love studying athletes and finding out what their secrets are. Why are they great at what they do? And so you could interview Michael Phelps. That's right. All you got to do is ask, reach out, network enough, and you can get to him. You can interview Michael Phelps and ask him, you know, what were his secrets? How to become an amazing swimmer. You can do the same thing with Matt Biondi. And then what you can do is you can title your book, How to Be Competitive and Win in Business by Analyzing Champion Swimmers. You could do it. Sounds interesting. Yeah. All right. And if I miss anybody's question in between, please just paste it again. Ashil is saying, good morning, Professor. Hope you're doing well. Nice being here on the weekly webcast. Take care. Yeah, great to have you. And Ashil, thank you so much for that message you left me over email. So I taught Ashil's one of my wonderful platinum students. I taught them last week about Nintendo. We did a case study in Nintendo. And what I did actually was I loaded up Super Mario Maker 2. I did it with my kids. And I taught a class based on that. And it was a lot of fun. I taught you about Nintendo's best practices by creating levels. And in the levels, I had text, which were just bricks. And those were the like bullet points I used in my slides. It was fun. And Ashil reached out to me and said, do you want to be friends playing Super Mario or on the iPhone? And I'd love to. I'm just so jammed. Yeah. All right. Next up is Brendan is saying, oh, I already answered that one. Sorry. Digi Art Studios asking, is the finance industry corrupt? The reason I'm asking is because some reports claim that the 2008 crisis, the ratings agencies rated bonds as AAA, even though they knew bonds were worth much lower. Yeah. Yeah. So I would say not everybody is corrupt in finance, but a lot of people are. And what never ceases to amaze me is very successful people, billionaires, get caught doing something later in life, like insider trading, which is against the law. And you think to yourself, my goodness, why the hell did you do that? You're already a billionaire. Like, why do it? And the reason is because that's how they got there, a lot of them, okay? And I'm a capitalist, please. But a lot of people got to where they are, by cheating. They just got caught later. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Kind of like you should never, ever do business with somebody that cheats on their spouse. Because of course they're going to cheat you as well. So it's just a matter of they got caught. And the same thing with the education sector. When it comes to people that are very, very wealthy, their kids get in these great schools. Yes, their kids might work very hard. However, I just don't understand how a lot of students from extraordinarily wealthy families get into these top schools. It's not fair. It's not fair. And obviously it's because of donations. Or the admissions committee thinks this person comes from a wealthy family, and after they graduate, they're more likely to donate to the school. That is incredibly unethical. And a lot of people hire coaches that lie about what you've done. And you've all seen the news reports on the actors and actresses that were sent to jail for bribing admissions committees and hiring people to lie, I should say, about their kids being on the rowing teams, which never took place. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. I guarantee you there's a gazillion other extraordinarily wealthy people that did that as well to get their kids in. And if you're unethical in business and a little bit too greedy, you will get caught eventually. Call it karma, synchronicity, call it what you will. But not all people are corrupt in finance, but a hell of a lot of them are. And if there's a hedge fund that makes money every single month, every year, they're breaking the law. Because statistically, it is impossible to make money every single month because each month has 20 weekdays, which means 20 trading days. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. And if you want to learn more about insider information and what it is, just do a search on my YouTube vlog. I've vlogged about it a bunch of times. And I've had friends that have gone to jail for it. And I've gone down and visited them. Nobody else did. But when something bad happens to a friend of mine, and I've never done anything wrong from an insider information perspective, but when something bad happens to a friend of mine, I run towards them, not away from them. Yeah. All right. Dr. Asif is saying, hi, Chris. Hey, doctor. Hope you're doing well. We got a doctor in the house today. Oh, Tiger Glory is with us. Your name is Cassandra, and you're from Florida. I haven't seen you in, God, it's been almost a year now. I hope you're doing well. Great to hear from you. Yeah. And then you said here, great presentation. Wow. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a while since you've been on. Dude, I've made a ton of mistakes. But as Michael Jordan says, I failed. I got a sign down there. I failed over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. Or at least that's why MJ succeeds. And so, yeah, no, I've changed around the studio a lot over the past year. I've added a couple new cameras. I've got pedals down here. See these pedals? And I map these pedals like they're keyboards. So I map different keystrokes, and I do it in order of the cameras. So I go left to right. There's 5 pedals. So that's camera 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the 5th one here is picture in picture in case I want to show something on my screen, which is fun, but great to have you. Next question is Kim is saying, Chris, do you get your t-shirts printed from a company online or locally? I do it online, actually. And I can't remember the name of the company I use, but this shirt here was for the first day of my MBA program. It says day 1, and then in brackets, not 1 day. And then my logo there as well. Yeah. Yeah. I did it online. I can't remember the name of the company. You know what I'll do? Let me do a quick search and I'll tell you. Because eventually I want to do merch because I have a lot of people asking for t-shirts, whatever. And I don't want making money from it. I want to sell at cost. But you can do it through Amazon Merchant Services. All right. So let me show you here. I'll just do a search on custom t-shirts. Custom t-shirts. And when I give presentations at events, here it is here, custom ink. When I give presentations at events, what I do quite often is I have a shirt made. And so I was a keynote at a big venture capital conference in Brazil a couple of years ago. And I got shirts that had Malala's quote on the back, which is, I've got on my wall there too. One child, one teacher, one pen can change the world. Yeah. So anyway, I get it done here at Custom Ink. Yeah. And I had an issue actually with them. Great company, by the way. Really, really good customer service. But I had a YouTube logo on one of my shirts, and they said, you can't do that because it's somebody else's IP. And the only way they let me do it is if I put my logo somewhere on it as well, the shirt. So, but there are rules here as well. Of course, you buy in bulk, you get a great deal. But their customer service is impeccable, and I highly recommend them. And I'm not sponsored by anybody, as you all know. I'm not a sellout. But I almost was recently, but I'm not doing that. All right. Next question is from Cebus, who's asking, hi, Chris. Christian here. Okay, that's your name is Christian. How are you? When a student has completed the MBA program, can they write MBA on their CV? Can I call myself Christian Bus MBA? If you want, it's an MBA degree program, but it's not accredited. And I thought about accreditation. I have looked into it, but I don't want any standard body telling me what I can and cannot teach, because business schools are so antiquated. They teach stuff that was relevant literally last century. I don't want any governing body, putting their fingers in the pie, so to speak, and messing up what I can and can't teach. I teach my students only what they need to use in the real world to be incredibly successful immediately. I don't want anybody telling me what I can and cannot teach. And I actually have a lot of people that are in my platinum program right now that have MBAs from the top schools. And they tell me that they've learned way more in my program so far than they did in the MBA programs in the bricks and mortar schools that they went to in the past. And my program, the silver version of my program, the cost of it is $4.99, which is literally 1 hour of education and the expense of education going to bricks and mortar business schools, including lost revenue, rent, and all that stuff. Lost income, I should say. Okay. And Manas in the house. Manas is saying, Salut, Monsieur Haroun. Comment allez-vous et pourquoi? Mon français n'est pas bien. Je fais le crasse matinée ce matin. Ici, c'est mon petit déjeuner, which is my small lunch. Yeah. Great to have you. All right. Next up is Himanshu. Himanshu, how are you? The question is, I hope you're doing great. Is this the right time to invest in Chinese mobile brands for the Indian market? Thanks, and looking forward to your reply. Yeah. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. So I never give individual advice on individual investments. I pride myself on teaching people how to fish instead of giving them a fish. And there's a lot of geopolitical uncertainty as well between China and India right now. So I'd watch out for that as well. But if you want to do deep due diligence on a company, I have a course that's more than 20 hours long called the Complete Financial Analyst Training and Investing Course. And what I do in that course is I have you join my pretend company called Morgan Haroun Sachs. And I teach you everything I can about finance and how to invest in companies in that course. And give me 1 second. I will show it to you very, very quickly. Here it is here. All right, hold on. We'll go here. Yeah, so check it out. Welcome to MHS. Congratulations! MHS stands for Morgan Haroun Sachs, which is the world's #1 pretend finance company. Come with me. You will go through our Financial Analyst Training Program Bootcamp. Here you will learn a lot about finance and investing, with no theory. You will rotate through the many divisions of our firm, and we will discuss how to excel in 14 different financial analyst roles. I will also help you understand which finance role you're most passionate about, and how to get hired and promoted in the industry. You will deal with the employees and clients of our firm in edutaining, meaning entertaining and educational interactive case studies. including how an IPO works, how to manage risk, and how to manage a portfolio. You will create incredible investment research reports that will impress the heck out of anyone in the finance industry. This course is for anyone who wants to be a financial analyst or a better investor, stock picker, portfolio manager, and more. No prior experience is necessary. It includes a comprehensive Excel template to help guide you through our training program. In addition, I will teach you Excel skills so you can model financial statements and value companies from scratch. This course is based on my many years of experience. I'm an MBA graduate from Columbia University. I've gone through the Global New Hire Financial Analyst Training Program at Goldman Sachs in New York, London, and Tokyo. I've worked for top hedge funds, and I even started my own hedge fund and venture capital firms. This course is more than 22 hours long. This is the most thorough financial analyst and investing course available on the market. The student reviews have been amazing. Welcome to the Morgan Haroun Sachs training program. This will be a lot of fun. I'll see you in the morning. A big hats off or kudos to Adad Warda, who helped to make that. And Adad is this amazing director, producer, writer, etc. And he's made 8 of my promotional trailers. He's amazing. That one we filmed over in the Czech Republic. Just beautiful backgrounds, etc. And actually that in old Czechoslovakia, the name of the country before, that scene with the ceiling, the ceiling panels opening, was used in the World's Fair there many years ago, which is a lot of fun. So hats off to Adad. He's wonderful, great business partner of mine, and I'm going to be doing a lot more work with him as well. He is the Steven Spielberg of commercials. He's great. All right. Next up, we got D'Angelo, who's saying, "Good morning, Chris. In general, what are your guidelines for reviewing contracts and negotiating terms without a lawyer?" I'm taking smaller contracts like buying a car, or talking about, sorry, I read that wrong. I'm talking about smaller contracts like buying a car, hiring a contractor, etc. Yeah, oof, that's tough. I never give legal advice, ever. But if you want legal advice, go to LegalZoom.com, okay? And you can hire somebody for $15 for a half hour. That's a lawyer. You have to, I think you got to do 6 months minimum contract, but that's what I would do. Yeah. All right. Next up, Manas is saying, "Hope all's well. So I'm preparing something very big, and you'll be literally amazed to see that. Wait for 7 more days next week, and you'll find the surprise." Cool. Looking forward to seeing it, man. Thank you. Pardon me. Dr. Asif is saying, "I hope and pray that all is well with you and your family." Thank you. Likewise. I appreciate that. And the first thing I do every day when I wake up, before I open my eyes, is I thank God for 10 things in this order. My kids, Andrew, Matthew, Dylan, my wife, Christine, my mom, my dad, my brother, Jamie, my sisters, Katie and Elizabeth, and my students, you. Thank you. Thank you. And then you wrote here, "I just want to thank you again for pointing me out to the New York Post for your MBA Silver program. Thank you for educating the educator." Now, you're most welcome. That's right. You mentioned you're a teacher. And what Dr. Asif is referring to is, so the New York Post is one of the publications. There are tons of publications all over the world that sell my course. And they're selling my MBA degree program now for $100 off. So New York Post, Haroun MBA. Let's go here. Yeah, here it is right here. Yeah, so they've got a special on now for my MBA degree program. And if you click through, it's, and I make more if you buy it from my website, but they're a great partner of mine. You can buy it for $100 off. The sale doesn't last forever, but if you want, you can check it out if you want. Yeah. And yes, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee there as well. There is with all my courses. Okay. Thank you for your support. Appreciate it. All right. And Manas wrote, "So recently our economy fell to," and Manas is from India, "recently our economy fell to 23.9%. What are the effects going to be?" Yeah. I don't know what you mean by that. Maybe that means GDP fell by that amount year over year. And that's what happened in England, actually, United Kingdom. Their gross domestic product dropped by 20% year over year for their most recent quarter. And GDP, gross domestic product, means revenue for a country. And that's the sharpest year over year decline they've had in England since World War II. So it is tragic. It is tragic. Hopefully we can all bounce back. And governments around the world are doing their best to help. And the way governments help usually is this. Governments have two doctors that work for them, right? Finance doctors. One of them is the doctor of managing interest rates, and the other is a doctor of managing all other money. So the first doctor and the first medicine this doctor has is monetary policy, the policy of money. In most countries, the person in charge of the policy of money, meaning how much to print or to take out of circulation, in most countries, it's called the Bank of whatever. So in Canada, it's the Bank of Canada. In Europe, it's the European Central Bank. In America, it's called the Federal Reserve. In Japan, for example, it's called the MOF, the Minister of Finance. And so what they do is the doctor of money or monetary policy. They can print a lot more money. And if they do that, basically, the demand for money goes down, which means interest rates go down. And I don't think that from a monetary policy perspective, countries can cut interest rates that much more. They're already basically zero in many countries. So that medicine is gone. The other medicine that countries have is something called fiscal policy, which is managing the economy in every way other than interest rates. So they could cut taxes, which many countries have done from a fiscal policy perspective, or they can write massive stimulus checks, which is why the U.S. deficit this year is the largest it probably has been since World War II. It's terrible. But now there's nothing left. They can't continue to cut interest rates because interest rates are zero, and they can't just create more and more stimulus checks or too many more. They just can't. They can't. Otherwise, debt will rise much, much more than it's already at, and it's at a record amount right now. So what can you do next? Well, aside from pouring in every penny you have government-wise to cure COVID or find a solution, you can make the stock market go up. And it's really irrational. I know a lot of people are thinking, I just don't get it, Chris. Why is the stock market at an all-time high? What is going on? It doesn't make any sense. Well, I believe, and this is just me, and I can't confirm this, but I believe since there's no medicine left from a monetary policy perspective and no medicine left from a fiscal policy, I think some governments are increasing prices in the stock market. It's happened before. I won't say which countries because I don't know for sure. But it's not going to take very much for certain governments to buy certain markets, stocks, and make them go up as another way to stimulate the economy. Because what happens is, and if you think about it from a Machiavelli perspective, the ends justify the means. But what happens is if governments buy stocks in certain markets and push the value up, well, many people own stocks. And if their net worth goes up, they start feeling better about themselves. And there's less chaos. And so they might spend more money, which helps tax revenues in every business, et cetera. Yeah. So what's the alternative? All right. Next up, Dr. Asif is saying, my two aims with the MBA degree program, the one that I created that you signed up for, and thank you for your support. My two aims are to start developing online courses on Udemy and to write an ebook using your template. I want some guidance how to start recording my first online course. Also, how does one write a script? Yeah, great questions. So I humbly believe that education can fix every problem in the world. I do. And it was the subject of my TEDx talk as well. And so what I do is I release a lot of free courses on how to teach online based on mistakes I've made, and I make plenty of mistakes, so you can work smarter, not harder. So I'll show you where to get them from. So just go to, do a search on Udemy, and then my name, and just go to my profile page. I'm not trying to sell something here, but give me a second. Yeah, go to my profile page, and when you scroll down through my courses here, you'll see I have 2 courses which teach you how to teach online, and I've done it in a ton of different languages as well, all free. Okay, so this one here is called Another 40 Tips on How to Make a Great Online Course, and I have a separate course you can get here called 40 Tips on How to Make a Great Online Course. This is part 2, so 80 tips. And I teach you everything, including scripting, everything you need to know right here. So this one here is the second one I did. It's about 4 hours, and just it'll help you. It'll help you create a course from scratch. And right here, tip number 13 of 20 is scripting your course, which is the question you asked about. So please sign up for this. It's free. And if I can humbly help you in any way after you watch this, or even if you don't watch it, just let me know. Thank you. All right. Okay, the next question is from Manas, who's saying, what if Steve Jobs was the CEO of Amazon and Jeff Bezos was the CEO of Apple? Imagine that. What would be the implications? Wow. Wow. Okay. So the difference between Steve Jobs, God bless him, and Jeff Bezos is Jeff Bezos subscribes to the whole Walmart business strategy of EDLP, which stands for everyday low prices. Whereas Steve Jobs focused on simplistic, beautiful products at a premium price, kind of like Sony. And so if Steve Jobs were to be CEO of Amazon, I think it'd be a very, very different company. I don't think it'd be as successful because Steve Jobs didn't really compete aggressively on price. He made premium products. Now, if Jeff Bezos were CEO of Apple, it would be interesting. I don't think, he's very innovative, but not as innovative as Steve Jobs was. And he doesn't have the team behind him like Steve Jobs did. So Johnny Ive, who's no longer with Apple, but Johnny Ive was in charge of industrial engineering at Apple, right? And so it was a little bit different. So I don't think Apple would be nearly as successful if Jeff Bezos was CEO, because from a creativity perspective, I think that Steve Jobs had a better handle on design. And if Steve Jobs, hypothetically speaking, per your question here, were the CEO of Amazon, they wouldn't do as well because Amazon is basically, they compete aggressively on price. And that's not how Steve Jobs competed business-wise. Okay. Next up, DigiArt Studio is asking, I can speak well in front of a physical audience, but for some reason, I'm not as effective now that we're presenting everything online. Could you tell me how to present well in online meetings? Yeah, absolutely. So it's a little bit different. Like if it's not perfectly live and there's a bit of a delay, your sense of humor can get lost. So I wouldn't use humor as much. I would also make sure that you're looking at them. Okay. So when you have a webcam, quite often people put it above or below. And so if you're looking way above, it looks, you come across maybe as being a little bit intimidating, looking above someone's head. And if you look down, maybe you come across as shy. So make sure the camera is eye level as well. That's what I recommend. Also, what you can do is, if you want, go and check out the Instagram presentation that I gave on Udemy, on Udemy's Instagram page. And it was Instagram Live. And the reason why I want you to check it out is because I did all of that with my cell phone. But what I also did behind the scenes was I actually used a teleprompter. And the way I did it was as follows. And let me just show you under the desk here. Whoops, wrong pedal, sorry. Okay, so right here, these are my feet. Right here, I have pedals. And what I do is I click on this pedal to go forward a slide and this pedal to go back a slide. Okay, so and you can see the teleprompter right there, right? It's kind of poking out there. And I'm using the teleprompter now because I'm actually reading the questions here so I can come across as more engaging. And the way to do it is, because there's a lot of light that comes through the screen, usually, what I do is I use the accessibility feature. So instead of having black text on white background like you see, I reversed it so that it's actually white text on a black background. And if I didn't do that, it would look like this. You see the lighting? It's starting to fade into my shirt a bit here. That's white. This is black. Yeah. So that's what I recommend. And what you can do is you can buy really, really cheap teleprompters online and cheap screens for literally $50. The screen that I recommend getting, you can do a search in Amazon, are the screens that you can buy, little monitors that people buy for cars. And all you do is you hook it up to, let me see if I get the right angle here. Sorry about that. All you do is you hook it up right here. So you put the screen here, and then this here is a two-way mirror, so I can see right through the screen there. And sorry that the audio wasn't perfect, because you got to be close to this microphone here. And if you do that, nobody is going to know that you're actually using slides. And so when I teach online as well, with my classes, I'll be clicking forward and back using the pedals. And the pedals here, I just map them as keyboards. You plug it in the USB port, and this is forward, this is back. So forward, back. And so when I do it, when I click on them, it just changes the cameras. And so I set this up as well to work with PowerPoint. It's amazing. Nobody does this. I don't know why more people don't do it. If you're being interviewed and you want to talk about a certain stock or a topic, nobody's going to know you're clicking through the slides if you set it up like I did. And I'll show you an example of how this works and how it turned out. So I actually did this with Instagram. Here I am here, yeah. All right, so I'm not logged in right now. I'm in private mode here. Or maybe it did log me in. I guess it did. Okay, good. But if you go to my Instagram page, or Udemy's Instagram page even, you can see this interview here, okay? And so for this interview here, what I did, and I'll go somewhere in the middle here, is I was using my feet to click through, okay? So this was, I was being asked questions, but the first 10 minutes actually, I gave a speech. So here it is here. I'll show you.
What do these incredible entrepreneurs or athletes or musicians all have in common? Well, they don't fear failure, and neither should we when we network. And I'll tell you how to network in a minute. But first of all, I want to talk about failure.
So this whole script here, I was actually reading. It was 10 minutes exactly. I was asked to speak for 10 minutes. So what I did actually was I went to a website called Speech in Minutes. I wrote up my script, okay, in Microsoft Word. Then I went to a website called Speech in Minutes, and I got the number of words from the presentation, right? You can do word count in PowerPoint as well if you go to File Properties. And you take the number of words, whatever it is, and you find out how long it's going to be. So I did about 1,000 words, which is 7.7 minutes. Now, I only had 10 minutes to talk, and I went off script a little bit, so it got me closer to 10 minutes. Then what I did was I took all the stuff in the Microsoft Word script, and I copied and pasted it into PowerPoint, and I made it size 44, okay? Big size. And what I did was I clicked through the slides with my feet. So right here, I'll show you, right here, the whole time I'm talking, after I got introduced, 10 minutes to talk here, the whole time I'm actually reading by clicking with my feet on the slides.
Then we'll get a promotion or a raise. And then what happens is we look around and we realize that other people are getting promoted and raises faster than we are. The reason is because we have to ask. Nobody has ever made CEO or...
And you can set it up so it comes across as natural. You don't have to read everything, and you can use transition words, including moving on to, in terms of, and if you feel like you're rambling, you can say, and the bottom line is this. So that's what I did. That's what I did. And by the way, the resolution there on the bottom, that was using my iPhone. This. All I was using was this. And the earbuds was connected to the iPhone. And the iPhone was put directly behind behind the panel here. Okay, so the iPhone was over here. I'll show you. It was right inside here. And I was looking into the camera of this and clicking between slides using my feet. So anybody can do it. And I think if you set it up that way, you can nail your presentation online. And the problem with Zoom is that, as with life, you never get a second chance to make that first impression. But every battle is won before it's been fought. And that's a famous quote from Sun Tzu and The Art of War. And so you can nail that speech and give a better speech than your competition can, if you use the methodology that I mentioned. Now, in terms of the exact screen to buy, let me show you what it looks like. All right, let me go over here, and I'll go into Amazon. Okay, and I think I'm signed in. I don't know why it thinks I'm... Okay, this is orders, I think. I don't even know. I guess it is, yeah. And this is my hair dye. I dye my hair. How are you? I'm a little bit too dark today. And I've been dyeing my hair since my 20s. Okay, so if I search on screen, I think this is it here. Screen, here it is here. Yeah. Okay, so this here is the screen. Sorry, I don't know why it's in Spanish. Okay, I think it's Spanish. Yeah, so I bought this for $52. And it's just a little monitor. And I hooked this up through HDMI directly to my laptop. And then I have a two-way mirror as well for my teleprompter. All right. Okay. Next question is, what if Facebook was banned in a country? Is that legit? Well, I mean, any government can decide what they want to do. You know, if the United States government wants to ban TikTok, they can do so. They can easily do it. I'm sure the Chinese government has banned a lot of American and other countries' technology products as well. Yeah. So in terms of being legit or not, it depends on the country. Yeah. And I actually pulled out of Facebook recently. I don't do Facebook for my business account. And I had a ton of followers too. I just don't do it because I have a problem with the ethics of Facebook. Next up, Manas is saying, I'm humbled to tell you that all that you are including, I'm humbled to tell you all including you, my mentor, all inspiration for me. And I'm working on something new and great. Thanks for inspiring me every day. God bless. Thank you, Manas. God bless you too. And thank you for the social media support. I see it. Thank you so much. Next up, we got Melody, who's a wonderful teacher from Atlanta, who's saying, I got a message from Facebook this week that said they have the right to remove or limit content or services or information to avoid legal issues. It goes into effect on October 1st. Yeah. And it's no surprise they're doing this ahead of the election. And apparently Facebook, from a PR perspective, they mentioned they're going to limit the amount of political ads in the weeks leading up to the election in November. Yeah. So I pulled out of Facebook. I don't use it anymore. Personally, I think the last time I posted was a few years ago. I don't really look at any Facebook posts though anymore. I just don't trust the platform. I don't. Yeah. And it kills me when I go to Best Buy here, a big consumer electronics store, and I see these video products from Facebook, you know, so that you can actually do video calls with your friends by buying this product. I'm not letting Facebook set up a camera in my house, man. Okay. And Manas is saying, thank you for answering my questions so patiently, and God bless you all. Thank you. God bless you more, buddy. Thank you. All right. Okay. Next up, we got Melody, who's saying, yes, I got the message about Facebook, but it started making me think about using other platforms to ensure my content is still present. Yeah. You can't just rely on one platform ever when it comes to social media. Rely on multiple platforms. And the best thing you can do is to repurpose content. So what I do, for example, is every Thursday between 8 and 11, and we're on week 104 now, I do this call. And then what we do is my team will make 7 vlogs for the next week based on 7 questions people asked on this vlog. And we'll also repurpose the content by publishing small videos on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram from this as well. So I'm not fully dependent on YouTube. Yeah. And YouTube really doesn't have competition, man. It's like initially it was kind of Vimeo, but dude, I think the U.S. government is gonna force Google or Alphabet, that's what they call it now, to break up into 2 companies soon. And the EU will do something about that as well. I love the EU because they protect us privacy-wise, and competition is good for the consumer. But Google is the biggest search engine in the world, and the second biggest search engine is now YouTube. I think it's just a matter of time until that company gets split up. Same thing with Amazon. It'll be split into Amazon software, meaning AWS, and everything else Amazon. Yeah. They're just too powerful. And even you're seeing it with Apple now. Apple and Google are both abusing their oligopoly power when it comes to muscling, Epic's Fortnite out of the App Store or Google Play. It's not fair. It's not fair. And Apple even, they've got this arcade service now that they market aggressively. That's not fair. From a competitive perspective, to favor their content over other people on their platform, that's anti-competitive. And I think what's going to happen is the EU and the Department of Justice in the United States, what they'll do is they will force Google and Apple to allow more people and more companies to put content on their platform. It's not fair how Apple is favoring their own platform for arcade, for example. I love the product. Look, I love Apple products. I use a lot of Apple products, but I'm not a sellout. I'm not going to ever take any sort of endorsement from anybody. I'm always going to be fully transparent with my students. But it's not fair what they're doing monopoly-wise to Epic. And if you get a chance, please do a search on Fortnite commercial 1984. Because in 1984, what happened was Apple spent $1 million on one commercial that was shown one time, made by Ridley Scott. And that commercial was shown in the Super Bowl back then. And it was the release of the Macintosh. It was a brilliant commercial. It had this beautiful woman who was married to Sylvester Stallone at the time come up to the screen and destroy a screen. And on the screen was this big, communist era a boss. And that represented obliterating IBM and the birth of the Macintosh. And recently, Epic, which is owned by Tencent, or 40% of which is owned by Tencent, and Epic owns Fortnite. Fortnite released a commercial exactly like that, except for Apple was up on that monitor, and all power to them. Okay, and competition's always good for the consumer. Next up, Kundan is saying, hey, Chris, which country do you love the most? Canada or the United States in terms of jobs, doing business, and overall living? Ooh, that's a tough one. So I'm very proud of my Canadian roots, very proud. But I'm also very proud to live here. And so there's pros and cons with both. I would say in the United States, it's more business friendly. However, in Canada, it's a great place to grow up and raise a family. It's very safe. And also, healthcare is covered. I believe, and I'm a capitalist, but I believe that healthcare should be free for every person on the planet. And I know if you're a realist, you might think, Chris, that doesn't make sense. It's expensive. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. And I do love socialized healthcare, although I am a capitalist for sure. Yeah. But I love both countries equally. But I like the Toronto Blue Jays better than any American baseball team. Yeah. And I remember back in 1992, we finally won the World Series in Toronto. And I finally had the opportunity to tease my American buddies about, hey, this is your national pastime, and we won the World Series. And my American buddies said, yeah, whatever, Haroun. Your Americans beat our Americans. So what? Touche. Manas is saying, I just came across a quote. If you feed your fear, your faith will die. And if you feed your faith, your fear will die. Oh, dude, that is dope on a rope. I love that. I'm going to take a little screen print of that. Hold on. Cool. Thanks for that. Love it. Love it. I love quotes. Okay. And next up, I've got Kundan who's saying, can you make a separate video on Tiger Cubs hedge funds? How they work, who they are, and how to get a job with them. Yeah, I'll do it right now. And so what happens is my team, after I do this YouTube live call, they'll download it and then they'll make vlogs from it. So I'll make a vlog for you right now. So the question is, what are Tiger Cub hedge funds and how do you get a job there? Well, back in the 1980s, there was this brilliant man named Julian Robertson, and he's from Virginia. And what he did was he started an amazing hedge fund called Tiger. And what differentiated Tiger from other hedge funds is that Tiger was not short-term focused. Julian Robertson believed in fundamental long-term investing, making 3-year bets, which is unheard of when it comes to hedge funds, many of which are judged monthly, which is moronic. And so he prided himself on being very, very long-term focused and a fundamental investor. As a result, Tiger roared to the upside, did extraordinarily well, and made a lot of investors billions of dollars. Then what happened was a lot of very successful employees at Tiger, they left in the 90s to start their own hedge funds and the 2000s as well. And those hedge funds are referred to as Tiger Cubs. And there's plenty of examples of them. There's Maverick, there's Blue Ridge, there's a lot of them. And they're great hedge funds because they're also long-term focused. I don't believe in being short-term focused. Otherwise, you get fooled by randomness. And you can't make money every month anyway because there's 20 weekdays in a month, meaning 20 trading days. And the reason that stocks go up or down within 20 trading days each month is because of geopolitical stuff or stuff outside of your control. That's why there's no such thing as a successful trader. What are their names? That's right, they don't exist. You got to be long-term focused. As Warren Buffett said, the longer the view, the wiser the intention. In terms of how to get a job at a Tiger Cub, well, the best way to get a job is not to apply when you see a job opening. Say what? The best way to get a job is to network a lot, because if you see a job opening online and you just throw in your application, you're one of thousands of people. And the person that gets a job quite often is the one that knows somebody at that company. So what can you do? You can network aggressively and set up many informational meetings with people that work at these Tiger Cub hedge funds. How do you do that? Well, the answer is read my book here. It's free. Go to my website, harouneducation.com. Scroll down. And right here, you can download my book for free on networking. It's a couple hundred pages, including several hours of YouTube videos. It teaches you how to get informational meetings and what to do once you get them, how to bond with somebody, and how to add a lot of value as well. And if you want to take your game to the next level, you can take a course of mine called the Complete Job Course, or what you can do is take my MBA degree program, because I teach how to network aggressively. And so let me show you the Complete Job Course here. When you wake up in the morning, is your first thought, how am I going to follow my passion, take my career to the next level, and find my dream job? Me too. At least, I used to feel that way. Now, of course, I really do have my dream job, sharing my experiences with you. So what does it take to get your dream job? First, you need to build the perfect resume. You need to interview better than anyone else. And you need to build the perfect LinkedIn profile in order to get recruiters and employers to find you. Great networking skills are also very important because you need to build relationships with those that matter to your success as well as your happiness in life. I will teach you how to perfect all of these techniques so that you will get your dream job. One espresso, please. Alternatively, if your goal is to get customers for your business, not to worry. We cover the art of networking and creating great business relationships. Anyone can take this course. No prior knowledge is needed creating resumes, optimizing LinkedIn profiles, or drinking espressos in European cafes. This course is for everyone of every age, in every industry, and for every career type. My passion has always been helping people get their dream job. I've conducted more than 1,000 interviews. That's one per week for more than 20 years. I've successfully switched careers many times, from working at Goldman Sachs, to the consulting industry, to the technology sector, to venture capital and hedge fund companies. I want to help you reach your full potential. Together, we will turn your perceived weaknesses into strengths. I have included 3 exercise books to help you materially improve your ability to network, your interviewing skills, your resume, and your LinkedIn profile. This is the most comprehensive career course available anywhere on the market. Many of my students that have taken this course have gotten their dream jobs. We will make it happen together, because when it comes to your career, even the sky's not the limit. It's funny because that closing scene you saw there was on this beautiful bridge in Prague. And I recorded, I think it was 6 or 7 trailers there in 2 days, right? It was a lot of work, but it was fun. But that last scene there was on a bridge. And we had a drone coming. And it was supposed to fly up into the air and fly up over me. And the problem was this, though. It's interesting. If you get a drone now, what happens is drones, and this is a good thing, drones all have GPS software embedded, and you're not allowed to go close to government buildings. And so the drone actually stopped. I mean, the bird didn't fall out of the sky, but it just stopped right by that bridge, which was interesting. Yeah, I think it's only a matter of time until drones are made illegal. Certain types of drones. Yeah. All right. Next question is from Emily. Em is saying, "Hey Chris, may I know whether the US dollar will be replaced as a dominant currency in the near future? If yes, which one do you think will be next? Euro, Chinese yuan, or Bitcoin? Thanks." Yeah. So I still believe that the US dollar is a flight to quality. And I'm not being emotional about it or biased, but whenever there's a crisis in the world, usually, like in 2008, the flight to quality is the US dollar. Kind of like gold is a flight to quality as well when people are scared. So I still think that the US currency will do quite well from an FX perspective longer term. However, if there's going to be one other currency that I think will be dominant, it will be the Chinese yuan. Now, the Chinese economy is going to be bigger than the US economy by the year 2040 or so, as long as there's no civil unrest or Tiananmen Square Part 2. And if that's not going to be the case, then I think a basket of other stocks is well would make sense. And so a lot of countries, they peg their currency to the US dollar or to the euro or to a basket of stocks. So maybe in the far distant future, the dominant currencies will end up being a basket of stocks and cryptocurrencies, potentially including Bitcoin. Yeah. But I think the biggest risk for China and their economy longer term is social unrest. I really do. I do. And it breaks my heart because for my entire life, the Chinese economy has been going from communism slowly to capitalism. That's a beautiful thing, since Nixon went to go visit China back in the early 70s. But for the first time in my life, China's going back this way towards communism a bit. That's not a good thing. It's awful. And I humbly believe, and I'm very opinionated, I believe that, do you remember when we had all those, the rioting in Hong Kong? Do you remember that right before COVID came out? A lot of people were out in the streets demanding equal rights. That's a beautiful thing. And I think the Chinese government could have quashed or stopped COVID from spreading. I think they let it go a little bit longer so that there was a reason for people in Hong Kong not to riot and go home. So anyway, those are my humble thoughts. Yeah. But the biggest risk for China is always social unrest. Like what we saw with Tiananmen Square was just the tip of the iceberg. And we were fortunate to have CNN in Beijing at that point to record part of it. And you saw that amazing hero, that guy. I don't know his name. He's a hero to me. He stood in front of the tank and he refused to move. And the tank went around him. Remember that? But I think given the fact that everybody's got cell phones with cameras now, everybody's a journalist. And China's biggest fear is social unrest. Social unrest. So, God willing, we get through this COVID situation and that there's no trade wars. Yeah. But we're codependent. Like America is dependent on China and vice versa. They're both too big to fail. They're codependent. If you have a mortgage and you live in the United States, well, part of your house is owned by the Chinese. It's true. A lot of the U.S. debt is owned by the Chinese. And also, a lot of exports from China comes to the United States. So the Chinese government and the Chinese economy is very much reliant on the U.S. consumer. And about 1/3 of the revenue for the world, close to it, is United States economy, GDP. And people don't realize this, but 2/3 of the United States economy is consumer spending. It's not big business, it's consumer spending. And that's why China and the whole world watches whenever you see consumer sentiment numbers that come out of the United States or unemployment statistics. Yeah, we're all in this together. John Clee in the house. How are you? John. John is saying, good Thursday to you. Hope you and the family are well. I was going to email you the other day, John, for some more work. So John works with me part-time. And so he's wonderful. He lives in Rochester. And I think you mentioned you have a family business as well. And I want to thank you for all the work you did with me. You did a great job. And I'm looking forward to very soon contacting you again so we can work together again. Thank you. All right. And John, the way I remember John's name, John Clee, is about a year and a half ago in one of my webcasts. He asked me what are my favorite Canadian comedians and favorite comedians in general. And so whenever I see his name, I think of John Cleese, who of course is part of the Monty Python group. Yeah. And I hope you and your family are doing well as well. Great to have you, bud. Okay. Next up is Kundan, who's saying, do you think the California wealth tax rates will destroy California? Also, do you think New York City will bounce back? Yeah, absolutely. Look, New York is down but never out, right? Look what they've gone through. 9/11, there was a lot of crime back in the 80s. New York has been through a lot, but New York always bounces back. Always. Yeah. And if anybody thinks otherwise, that they have no idea. Yeah. No, I think New York is always, and you can watch the movie Gangs of New York. And it's basically the history of New York. It's interesting. Scorsese flick. It's a good one, actually. But at the very end, you see the city over 100 or 200 years, right? Just the history of the city, the Twin Towers up, Twin Towers down, the future of the city, etc. And that kind of reminds me of how resilient New York is. No, New York will always bounce back. Always, always, always. I'm a big believer. Yeah. When it comes to taxes destroying California, it kills me, man. I mean, I love living here. Sometimes I think of it as the left coast, though. Taxes are a little bit too high. And a lot of people, what they do is they actually spend more than 6 months of the year, 4 hours inland in a state called Nevada, because taxes are much lower there. And so they claim that as their main tax base. Tony Robbins lived in California for like 50 years. And he left a couple of years ago. He relocated to Florida because taxes are much lower there. I think it's ridiculous how high taxes are here. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. But I do love living here. I love it. The schools are great for my kids. My kids are in public schools. I don't believe in private schools. And I like the way people think out here, though, as well. People are very open-minded and willing to take risks, and failure is cool here. So I'm happy I live here. But yeah, I think the taxes are insanely high. I'd love for us to have the Florida or Texas tax code here. Don't mess with Texas. Yeah. Okay. And Melody is saying, I don't look at anyone else's courses because I don't want that to influence what I want to make. Yeah. Yeah. I'm the same way. I'm the exact same way. Yeah. Yeah. And when you create a course as well, when you're a teacher, and Melody, you're a wonderful teacher from Atlanta, and Melody teaches offline and online. When you're a teacher, I kind of think like you have a blank palette, and you get to be creative and teach in brand new ways and have fun with it as well. And if you look at how other people teach, then what happens is you get influenced and your inner creativity dies. And Manas is saying, Bill Gates made a cake for Buffett. I saw that. Warren Buffett, 90 years old, man. It's amazing. It's incredible. Dude, I think a lot of us on this webcast are going to live to 150. It's not far-fetched. Yeah. And I'm seeing so much money here in the Bay Area going into biotech and life extension, especially in South San Francisco, which is the biotech capital of the United States. Yeah. So I do believe that a lot of us are going to live to at least 150. Yeah. Dr. Asif is saying, hey, Chris, hey, man. I was wondering if you have a practical research method or business research, etc. Yeah. So Dr. Asif registered for my my MBA degree program, the silver version. And you mentioned you purchased it through the sale that the New York Post is having on now in my MBA program. So what I do is we have a venture capital boot camp in the second semester. And so it's actually the entrepreneurship track. Actually, it's a third semester, sorry. And it's the first 5 classes of semester 3 in the entrepreneurship track. And I teach you practical research methods to be able to help you create an amazing business plan and much more. All right. Next up, somebody is saying, Dear kind grandpa. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I thought you were calling me grandpa. And I was like, hey, man, that's cool. I went gray in my 20s. It's a bad hair dye. Bad hair dye job, but I try. The question is, my dear kind grandpa used to always say to invest in blue chip companies that have paid a dividend since the 1800s. Spot on insights, Mr. Chris. No, thank you. And my grandfather, God bless, I miss you, Grandpa. He used to say to me, Chrissy, buy land. They're not making it anymore. And he's right. I love land. I love buying property. I love it. And we're actively buying more right now. One of our more recent purchases was we bought a building in London, Ontario, right by the University of Western, because school is somewhat counter-cyclical. Yeah. All right. And then Melody is saying, dude, is that a digital sign in the back? I'm guessing you got it from Etsy. It's really cool. Yeah, I'll show you actually. Yeah. So this one here, you can see it here in this angle. This angle's better. Yeah. So this is actually, I actually just bought it on Amazon. It's used for high school basketball, I think. But I got it because I do 20-minute one-on-ones on Thursday afternoons with my students. My students in my Platinum program get several hours of one-on-ones. And so that's right. And I put the timer back there just so we stay on track. Yeah. But it is pretty cool. It's fun. All right. Next up, Christian is saying empathy are the new great sought after attributes in young professionals. How can we quantify or measure these attributes and use them to find employers that are looking for such attributes? Yeah. I mean, I would look for companies that have a wonderful open corporate culture and give back a lot and really believe in diversity as well. And so there's a lot of great companies like that. So I think that Apple is great from an empathy perspective as well. Yeah. It's tough to measure it though, because it is more of an art than a science. But what I would say is to look for people that are involved with charities, that have started charities, or work in charities as well. Little side note is if you've got the entrepreneurial bug in you and you think you want to start a company, but you're working for somebody else, then what you can do is start a charity on the side. It'll teach you a lot about entrepreneurship, and you're doing a lot of good things to make the world a better place. And so when I worked at Accenture back in 1997, I started Canadian Internet Charity Consulting. The website was cicc.com. And you can do a search for Internet Archive and go to cicc.com and see my awful website with cascading style sheets back then. So that's what I did. And I even took a little leave of absence for 6 weeks in the summer of 1997 from Accenture. And they were great to me because I had this entrepreneurial bug in me. And I want to start a charity and just help. Yeah. So that's what I would say. If you got the entrepreneurial bug, start a charity on the side. Now, of course, CICC.com is owned by the largest Chinese investment bank, I think. Kills me. I let it go. I could have sold to them. Yeah. All right. Next up, Mr. Lee is saying, hi, Chris. What is your view on the airline industry in the future? Do you think the market has changed fundamentally? Thanks. Yeah. So, there's always going to be demand for quick travel. So I don't think the industry is going to go away entirely. But I think it's a lousy business to invest in. There are unions. There's oil prices, which adversely impacts the airline industry. And now with COVID as well, fewer people are traveling. But I don't think it's going to go away. I just think that a lot less innovation is going to go into that sector because it's just too risky. It's too risky. We haven't really seen much innovation. There are cooler birds up in the sky now, like the 787 Dreamliner from Boeing. But there's only 2 companies that make the large airplanes right now. It's an oligopoly. You've got EADS, which is Airbus in Europe, consortium of countries working on that. And you got Boeing in America. And you have smaller players like Embraer in South America and whatnot. But there's just not much innovation. When I was a kid back in the 80s, we had the Concorde. I never flew it on it, but I guess for safety reasons, they got rid of it eventually. But there really hasn't been much innovation since then. And that's because it's a really, really tough industry. Really tough industry. My gut is some sort of space derivative product will be created to make air travel much, much faster. And it's a pet project of a lot of billionaires, like Elon Musk, of course, who's thinking about colonizing Mars now. That's how long-term focused he's awesome. You've got Richard Branson. And of course, you've got Jeff Bezos, focusing on space travel. So I think if any innovation is going to come, it's going to be from space and space travel. Yeah. Either that or Hyperloop or something. Yeah. And then Jason is saying, how is this different from a Udemy course? Yeah. So this is just a weekly webcast I do versus courses that I put on directly on Udemy. Yeah. And if I didn't answer that question correctly or if I misunderstood it, let me know, please. Next up, we got Christian, who's saying, why don't people on Shark Tank negotiate? If someone offered to give me X amount for 40%, you can always tell them yes, under the condition, to buy back the percent when they have their investment returned. Yeah. They do negotiate. You just don't see it. Like Shark Tank, the way that Shark Tank works, and for those of you that aren't familiar with it, maybe some people overseas, it's this program which has 5 or 6 or so incredibly successful investors and entrepreneurs that decide whether or not to invest in a startup. And usually there's a couple of people or one person presenting their business model. But what you see on television is they present for 15 minutes and that's it. The reality is this, though, and I know people that have gone on the show. What happens is people actually present for several hours sometimes, or 1.5 or 2 hours, whatever it is. And then the editors just take, in the post-production process, before it gets syndicated or put on the air, the editors in the post-production process, they just take the coolest, funnest, I don't know if that's a word, most interesting moments. But there's a lot behind the scenes that's never actually put on the air. Yeah. Akil in the house. Akil, I hope you're doing well, bud. Akil is one of my wonderful, brilliant platinum students in my MBA degree program. Great to see you, bud. Okay. Next up, Javier is saying, what do you think of trading platforms like Plus 500 or eToro? Are they reliable? I don't know much about them. I personally don't believe in trading. I believe in being a very, very long-term investor. And the reason I know this is the case is because the most successful investors in history, like Warren Buffett, are long-term focused. We can't name a single trader that's successful. You know why? They don't exist. Otherwise, you get fooled by randomness. Yeah. And the worst thing that can happen is to start trading and make money right away. Because it gives us all a sense of confidence that we can replicate that, but we can't. It's random. It's like going to a casino and you make money the first time you went. You're like, oh gosh, I can make money every time. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. The longer the view, the wiser the intention, to quote Mr. Buffett. And happy birthday, Mr. Buffett. He's 90 now. It's amazing. All right, next up, Sharif is saying, hello, Chris and everyone. Hope you're well as well. All right. Patrick is saying, what is your opinion on Bitcoin to escape inflation? Yeah, yeah. So I do believe in a handful of cryptocurrencies, and I've owned them for a long time, and I'll never sell them. But I'm not going to tell you what to buy or sell, but I'll tell you what I own and have owned, and I'll never sell. Bitcoin, I've owned forever. Litecoin, which is like Bitcoin's little brother, little sister for smaller transactions. Ripple, XRP is the ticker. Ripple is for financial services purposes. And the founder doesn't live too far away from me here. And then also Ethereum, or Ether is the name of the crypto, ETH, on that platform, Ethereum platform. So those are ones that I own. But I only transact when everyone's freaking out. You know, just like in the stock market, I'm not buying any stocks right now. Quite the opposite, actually. But I love to buy broken stocks, but not broken companies. I like to catch a falling knife when the chart looks like this, when it feels uncomfortable. That's when you got to do it. That's when you got to buy. Otherwise, if you buy stocks when everybody else is, then who's the incremental investor that's going to push that stock higher? There's not as many. And so in summary, to quote the sage of Omaha, Warren Buffett, you have to be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. I'm getting a little bit hungry here. Grab my shake. Urgh. I put a lot of acai in this morning as well, which is a wonderful South American fruit that gives you energy. Give me a second here. Take some of my vitamins. All right. What do we have next here? The next question is, what is your opinion on... Actually, I answered that one already. Sorry. Next, we have Mehdi who's saying, hello, Chris. Hey. Which one of the 4 stages of an industry life cycle, meaning introduction, growth, maturity, and decline, which one of the 4 stages of the life cycle do you think the B2B artificial intelligence industry is currently in? Yeah. And so what Mehdi is discussing is something called the product life cycle, which basically you analyze a product and what stage it's at. So initially, it's in the introduction phase, and there's not much growth, right? Then you've got the growth phase, where growth is accelerating. Then you've got the mature phase where growth is decelerating or slightly in decline. And then you've got the decline stage, right? Where industries are, or products are like cash cows and are not really growing as much. So I think that the artificial intelligence based B2B sector is certainly in the growth phase right now. We're seeing a lot of growth, a lot of interest from a venture capital perspective in a lot of AI-based startups. Yeah. It's a hot industry. And the last one I invested in was Palantir, which is a great artificial intelligence based company. I'm no longer an investor in it, but I invested in the venture capital sector. I sold most of my venture capital investments actually. Yeah. All right, give me a second here to catch up on you guys. All right, next up is Michael, who's saying, how does someone find advisors for a home care business? Yeah. So the way to find mentors, or Yoda, so to speak, is to use LinkedIn, do an advanced search for people that have at least two things in common with you. You know, maybe they went to the same school as you, or they're from the same hometown, or both. And reach out to them and ask for an informational meeting. Because your network is your net worth, and relationships are always more important than product knowledge. In terms of quick ways to learn how to network, I have a book that's free. You can go to my website, Haroun, let me close these here, HarounEducation.com. Scroll down on my homepage, and you can download this book for free, it's several hundred pages plus a few hours of YouTube videos. It'll teach you everything you need to know about networking, and that will help you out a lot when it comes to getting advisors for your business. All right. The next question is from Sharif, who's saying, may I ask about the business of healthcare? Where can I learn about healthcare? Yeah. So I think the best way to learn about any industry is to read annual reports on companies and to listen to earnings conference calls on companies. So within healthcare, and it's a very, very broad sector, but let's say that you're interested in pharmaceutical companies. What you can do is you can go to the websites of pharmaceutical companies and read everything in the investor relations section of that company. And you can also go to government websites, which mandate that companies that are publicly listed list their filings on. In the United States, it's called sec.gov. In Canada, it's called CEDAR. So let's look at an example of Merck. Okay, so Merck is a big pharmaceutical company. And so if we go to sec.gov, which is the Securities and Exchange Commission website in the United States, and if you want to be on the stock market in the United States, you have to file your annual reports here. The annual report is called a 10K. So I'll show this to you really quickly. So we're going to go to company filings here. Okay. And then what we'll do is I'm going to enter in the ticker for Merck, which is MRK. See it there? Hit enter. And what we'll do is I'm going to search for the 10K, the annual report. It's just what they call it. By the way, 10Q means quarterly report. 8K means an important press release like earnings. And then S1 means an IPO document, which is a great place to start for deciding if you should invest in an IPO. Merck went public years ago. So we're going to go here to the 10K. So I'll hit enter. And here's all the annual reports, right, for Merck forever, going back to 1994 at the bottom here. My face is covering that up, though. Okay. So if we go here now for the most recent 10K for Merck, which is February of 2020, you click Documents, then you click here, the top one always. And what you can do is you can read the annual report for Merck. Let me make it bigger. Oops, there we go. A little bit bigger. There we go. This is the annual report for Merck. And this will tell you how business is progressing, what the risks are, who the management team is, the financial statements, etc. It's very, very long. It's fantastic, though. It's great. You can learn a lot about a company here. What the business is of Merck. So starting out for the healthcare sector, if you want to learn about Merck, you can read just the basics here about the business. You can also look through the financials here if you want to. Okay, here they are here. And you can copy all this stuff and put it in your financial model. Or you can use a website called BAMSEC, which is not affiliated with the US government. It's a business. And you can type in companies here if you want to. So let me type in Merck. And I think it's $30 a month for this, and you can get a free trial. And what you can do here is you can go to the annual report and download directly into Excel all the financial data. And I'll show you how that works. So financial statements, right here, download. And this here will allow you to download this financial statement directly into Excel. So you don't have to manually type the stuff. So here it is here. Okay, it's nicely formatted as well for you. Okay, that's BAMSEC. I'm not sponsored by anybody, but I do subscribe to this. It's helpful. Now, another way is all companies that are publicly traded have an investor relations website. If it's a big company, they design it themselves. If it's a smaller company, they outsource it. So we can go to Merck. Is Merck with a K or a C? Hold on, let me go here to the ticker on Merck. See here. MERCK. Yeah. So what I can do is I can type Merck Investor Relations. Okay. And then you'll see here, this is on Merck's website. You can learn all about Merck by going here to Investor Relations. And there's something called Regulation FD, which a senator named Eliot Spitzer in New York in the early 2000s created, which is called Regulation FD. It stands for Fair Disclosure. And the law is that you're allowed to get access to information the exact same same time as any other investor does online. It's great. It levels the playing field. And that's why mutual fund performance has sucked since then. You can beat mutual funds easily just by ETFs. And I can go there if you want me to. So you can look here at events and presentations, right? This is an earnings call. You can look at all financials as well. They have previous earnings calls as well if you want to scroll down. Webcasts. They have analyst events sometimes as well. You can click here and listen to the most recent webcast. You've got the CEO is speaking here, Ken Frazier, okay, on the call, the CFO, etc. But there's just a wealth of information that you can access to from going to investor relations portions of large company websites. All right. Okay, the next question is from Melody, who's saying, Chris, have you ever done a detox? I'm doing that this week. I've never done that, but my diet quite often is a lot of it is liquid. As I don't have time to cook a lot of times, so I'll create one of these massive greatest hits shakes every day. And it's got every antioxidant I can find. I've been doing this for decades now. Yeah. And my latest thing, just to save me time, is I've been ordering food from a company called Daily Harvest. It's organic, and what they do is every week they ship me, 7 little bowls, and it's in a frozen package when it gets to me. I'll put it in the freezer, and that's the basis for my shakes as well. Yeah. So yeah. All right. I need to take a 30-second break. So I'll be right back. Give me a second, and I'll show you, while I take this very quick break, a video I have with my son in one of my courses. I hope you enjoy this. One speech can change your life. You will learn to love public speaking. One speech. Oh, hey there. One speech can change your life. You can. Oh, hey, I'll be with you in a second, okay? You will learn to love public speaking. Oh, hey, actually, I'm practicing for my speech. Can I rehearse it with you, and you can maybe let me know what you think? Okay, thanks. One speech can change your life and touch the hearts of so many people around you, whether you realize it or not. And this assumes you have no public speaking experience at all. No problem. I used to be terrified of public speaking, much more than you. I'd rather have been here than up there. For example, when I was in business school at Columbia University, as well as during the training program at Goldman Sachs, I asked more questions than my peers did because I was terrified of being put on the spot. But now I feel alive while giving speeches. People might forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. This course is not based on theory. It's based on real practical experience. I've given a TEDx talk, numerous keynote presentations, and graduation speeches in front of hundreds of people. I've given numerous business presentations, and I've been interviewed by many media publications. You will learn to love public speaking on the spot with no preparation. So that one incredible speech can be the bridge between where you are now and where you want to be. It's almost impossible to achieve all of your goals in life without learning how to master public speaking. Anyone that's had a significant influence on the world, from Dr. Martin Luther King to Malala Bill Gates, or Steve Jobs all had one thing in common. They've all had the ability to communicate with large groups of people. In this course, I will include 25 different templates for every type of speech occasion, from a personal speech at a wedding to a business presentation using Skype. This course will teach you everything there is to know about public speaking. One speech can change your life and the lives of so many people around you. Life all comes down to a few short moments. So how was that?
Guess it was okay, Dad. Can we go home now?
Sure thing, bud. All right, let's go. So I've got to take him home, but I'll see you in class. Thanks. So how was everything? Was that a good day? Yeah. All right. Thanks for your patience. Just took a quick break there. Okay. Next question is, Michael is asking, hi, Chris. I'm working on developing a nonprofit for a year-long residential facility for those experiencing issues with co-occurring mental health and substance abuse. Good for you. Awesome. What counsel would you give for nonprofits in general in this focus specifically? Yeah. Whew. That's a tough one. So I have my brother-in-law actually does this, and I think he started doing it online as well. His name is Jared Bourgeois, and he has helped a lot of people to overcome substance abuse. He knows a lot about this as well, and so does my little sister Elizabeth, who I love dearly. So you can search for Jared's name online. I'm sure he'd be happy to give you advice on it. Let me actually do a quick search right now. Hold on a second here. So I'll do a search for Jared Bourgeois. Here he is here. Let's see. Do a search for his name. Whoops, sorry about that. And then substance abuse. Yeah. And let me see if I can find him here. He's got a website as well. I really should know. Tell you what, ask me again next week, and I'll find out for you, because he's helped a lot of people overcome substance abuse issues. He's awesome. He's awesome. Thank you. But I'm not an expert in that area by any means. Yeah. Okay. Next up, we got Kokona is saying, hi, Chris. I hope you are doing fine. Likewise. Are you getting the new PlayStation 5? My son is excited about it. Thanks. Yeah. I am going to, only because they rebuilt from the ground up Grand Theft Auto 5, and it looks like real life, except for faces, but the rest, like the cars in the background, looks amazing. So I will get it. I think the form factor is moronic, though. It's like this big. I mean, it's this big, really. But I think I got a little speaker down here. It's on. Hold on a second. Sorry. Yeah. I was running the webcast on my handset as well, just for backup to see if everything is cool audio wise. It's massive. But what Sony will do in true fashion is they'll make smaller versions over time, like the PlayStation Slim. They did that with the PS2, 3, 4. But there's really no, aside from GTA 5, there's no other awesome launch titles for me to get it. I usually buy consoles based on software. Software sells hardware. But aside from GTA 5, there's nothing there. And Microsoft's new box, it looks like a brick, actually. The next Xbox coming out later this year as well. There's no brand new proprietary content that I want to buy for it. So I don't know. I'll probably buy the PS5 first. And then the Xbox later, if there's a killer game for it. And Halo doesn't cut it for me anymore. I used to like Halo, but it's so boring now. There's no character development. They haven't really done anything innovative with it. So, but I'll tell you what I'm playing right now. Right now I'm playing The Last of Us Part 2 on my PlayStation 4. And it is so good. Anything that Studio Naughty Dog makes is awesome. They made the Uncharted franchise as well. But I have to play The Last of Us Part 2 with the lights on. That's how scary it is. And I've got these older Sony headphones that give 3D sound. And it's terrifying, but it's a great game. It is awesome. It is awesome. Yeah. And I still play MLB The Show as well. And they've nailed this year's version. It's amazing. Yeah. I miss baseball. And then Kunal saying, good morning, Chris. Hope you're doing well. Likewise. Hope you're doing well. And the next up is Preeti, who's saying, hey, Chris, hope you're doing well. Have a nice day. Likewise. And then you wrote here, I'm actually shooting for a short movie with my friends. Any advice? Yeah. I would say try to get it perfect in camera. Otherwise, and spend as little time editing as possible. I found that when I first started making my courses, my videos, I would over edit, and I could have saved myself a lot of time by just doing another take and nailing it. What I also recommend doing to save you time, whether you're making an online course or a short film, is to record with several camera angles. So that if you screw up a couple lines, you can always just transition to another camera instead of having to do the whole scene over. So, for example, for me, I record from 5 or 6 angles quite often in 4K, and that's to future-proof my stuff. And so if I'm recording on this angle here, for example, and I make a mistake, I don't have to re-record. I just kind of go back one line and redo it here, and then cut to another angle, whatever angle that might be. That might be, right? I know I'm overdoing it here, but I think you get the idea. Use multiple angles so that if you screw up, you don't have to re-record the whole thing. But if you only have one camera, you don't have that luxury, then try to get it right in camera first. And best of luck. Okay. Hey, Pratik, how are you? Melody is saying your French is great. Did you take French in school? My French is not great. Thank you, though. Appreciate that. I did. Actually, I didn't speak English in school until the 4th grade. And so my parents sent me to the Toronto French School, TFS. And I learned French first. Yeah. Yeah. But my French is awful. And actually, I am teaching a course in French on Udemy coming out soon. This year, actually. So one of my amazing platinum MBA degree students named Vital, he is a native French speaker. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take my 8-hour course called the entire MBA 1 course and teach it together in French. He's going to do most of the talking. I'm going to come in every now and then and say a few things. Yeah. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. And actually, the use of proceeds, like the money we make from that, all of it is going to go to pay for a school that we're making together in Rwanda, which is where Vital is from. And it's the first of many schools we're going to make together. Yeah, so it'll be fun. All right. And I am going to fly to Rwanda. I was supposed to go this December just to work on the school with him. But because of COVID, I can't go. But I am committing, and I'm saying it publicly now, so I have to do it. I am committing to flying to Rwanda in 2021 and teaching a course there with Vital from the school that we're building right now. Yeah. So I set a deadline date and I made it public, and now I have to make it happen. And so whenever you come up with a goal, you got to set a deadline date and vocalize it as well. And the reason that 90% of people give up on their New Year's resolutions by the 3rd week of January is because they don't set a deadline date. All right. Oh boy, I got to go to Rwanda now. Yeah. We can't go now for COVID reasons. We were going to go this December. And it kills me too, because I was going to have a graduation ceremony for my platinum and gold MBA degree students this December. And I was going to rent the Hiller Space Museum here in San Mateo. And there's a 747 that was taken out of commission in the 70s. But we were going to rent that 747 and also have that as where we were going to have our graduation party. Yeah, but we have to defer that to next year. And I was also going to rent at the Hiller Space Museum, the 747, to film the next trailer for my MBA degree program. And a dad who's my brilliant editor when it comes to my commercials, what he wanted to do, and he wrote the script for it. It's brilliant. I was going to come out of the cockpit as a captain, and I was going to walk into regular class, and I was going to say, "You've all been upgraded to business class, woohoo!" And they come forward to business class, and I talk about my business class, the MBA degree program. Yeah. And Melody's saying, my son Alex is taking French. I don't know French. I know Spanglish. You wrote here. Yeah, I don't know any Spanish. It's terrible. My kids are taking it now. It's terrible that I don't know it, but it is a beautiful language. It's a romantic language like French and Italian. Yeah. And Humanshu is saying, thanks for Chris for the supply. Your hint was great. My pleasure. Thank you. And Michael's saying, pretty good ad. Thank you. Thank you. Next up, we got Guillermo who's saying, hey, Chris, question about your silver program. Will it contain assignments and quizzes or just videos? Will you review the work we submit? Finally, will students receive a certificate upon completion? Yeah. So there's over 100 classes. And after each class, there's a quiz, multiple choice. So that's the extent of it. And it's pass fail. So you just have to get over 50%. And I set it up like that because I don't believe in summa cum laude and all this stuff, because I want people to kind of think there's teamwork involved. I don't want to kind of profile any one student. So it's multiple choice. And that's it. In terms of assignments, it's just multiple choice. But if you're in the platinum or gold program, we can do a lot of one-on work together as well. Like you can show me your business plan and your presentation and all that great stuff. And you get several hours of one-on-one time in the platinum program. Platinum and gold programs start this December. You can go to my website to apply now. And the deadline date's listed on my website too. Just go to harouneducation.com. Yeah. And in terms of certificate, you'll get a degree, from Haroun Education Ventures. It's an MBA degree. I will not do accreditation though, because I don't want any government body tell me what I can and can't teach. They are part of the problem and not part of the solution. Yeah. All right. And next up is Sarvesh is saying, I had enrolled in the course and I haven't finished it yet. So far, it's great. And the ad is wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. And then Kim is saying, with a special on the New York Post on my MBA degree program, is it the exact same material as the silver program on your website? It is. Yes, it is. And you get a 30-day, 100% money back guarantee. So the way I've set it up is there's many newspapers all over the world in many countries that sell my stuff, my courses. And although it looks like their website, it actually comes right to my website. You just don't see the branding there, but it is the same thing. And as always, you get a 30-day, 100% money back guarantee. So you've got nothing to lose. Yeah. And then you wrote, can I sign up for the special and then upgrade it to gold or platinum later? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So if you buy the silver version and then you join gold or platinum later, I will give you, the dollar amount you paid for the silver version as a discount. So if you pay $500 or whatever it is for the silver version, and you want to do gold later, and gold is $1,000, then you only pay $500. Or if you want to do platinum, instead of paying $1,500, you pay $1,000. Yeah. And thank you for your interest. Appreciate it. All right. Next up, we got Manas who's saying, how do you post a link to several videos in your Udemy courses, despite it being other people's channel? Are you allowed to do that? Let me try to see if I understand the question. Sorry. How do you post a link to several videos in your Udemy course, despite it being other people's channels? Are you allowed to do that? I don't know. I don't think so. But what you can do is, if you go to Udemy's website, they've got, there's a ton of Q&A that you can see there. Yeah. And there's also a policy email you can email. And they take care of compliance and all that stuff with all the rules. Yeah. Next up, we got Kartik who's saying, hey, Chris, how are you? I'm great. Thank you. I hope you're doing well. Okay. And let me go down here. More questions. Edwin. Hey, Edwin Valenzuela. I love it, man. Every time I see your name, I think of Edwin Encarnacion, who's my son Dylan's favorite baseball player. He used to play for the Blue Jays, Edwin Encarnacion. And I think of the wonderful pitcher from Mexico who played for the Dodgers named Fernando Valenzuela. You got the coolest name ever, dude. So you're saying, good morning, Chris. I've heard the quote, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Oh, I love that. I believe that too. We are all a product of our environment. You know, and if you hang out with people that are very negative people or have substance abuse issues, you become just like them. You are who you hang out with. And I remember when we were younger, my parents would always say, I don't want you hanging out with that person because that person does drugs. And I would say, no, they don't. They did drugs. Your parents know. So when you were younger, your parents would kind of help you choose your friends. And now that we're older, we should pick our own friends and get rid of the ones that bring you down. There's no room for them in your life. And when I was younger, it used to be 5 or 6 strikes, you're out as a friend. But now it's like 1 or 2. You know, I just don't have the patience to hang out with people that are very negative. Yeah. Plus, it takes away from my time I can spend with my family. And I can't get that time back with my kids, right? Yeah. And you wrote here, how can we meet new people that bring positive value to our lives? How do we upgrade our circle? I love it. I love it. Yeah. It's hard, man. I don't know. It's kind of like it's harder to make friends when you get older. But I usually know within the first 30 seconds of meeting somebody, if this is somebody I want to hang out with. And they better be pretty darn good. I know it sounds weird for me to say that. They better be pretty darn good because every second I spend with them is a second or 2 less I'm going to spend with Christine and the kids. So I don't know. I think it's kind of luck when you meet the right person. Yeah. Yeah. But it's kind of like also like when you go to a clothing store and you try on a sweater and you look at yourself in the mirror and you think to yourself, I think I like it, but there's a tiny chance I might not wear it. And you buy it and you never wear it. If a very small part of you says, I'm not really sure if I trust this person or if I'll enjoy their company forever, what's the point? What's the point? Spend time with family instead. Yeah. All right. And Preachy liked my espresso, and Mr. Lee did too, and Daniel. You guys enjoyed that commercial of mine. Thank you. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, and I worked so hard when I went to Prague, and of course I invested a ton of money in it. And I returned a positive investment. It's been great, but I worked so hard on that, and I was really sick when I did that, and we had to put on a lot of makeup, and I voiced over, which is kind of obvious, but sometimes I push myself too hard. All right, Avi Pro, who is a pilot from Sweden, is saying hello, Chris. I hope all is well with you. If you think taxes are high in California, don't ever try Sweden. You'll have a stroke. Yeah. No, I hear you. I went to Sweden when I was in business school with 4 or 5 of my buddies. And when we were there, we went to Stockholm and Gandladef, which I think is the old town there. Every person is beautiful there. Like, it was unbelievable. Amazing. Yeah. Juan David in the house. Juan David is our wonderful 17-year-old from Venezuela originally. He lives in Chicago. He wrote a best-selling book that I wrote a review for on the back cover along with the Chicago Tribune. He's given 2 TEDx talks. He's amazing. He's great. And his book is called Generation Optimism. It's wonderful. Check it out if you can. So Juan David is writing here. Hey, Chris, how are you doing? I'm great. Thank you. I hope you're well. And then you said, I hope you had a good vacation. I did. Thank you. We went to Tahoe, but it concerned me because only 10% of people there were wearing masks. So it's hopefully we get past this COVID thing soon. Maybe a cure's coming in November. And then Juan David wrote here, recently I started college and I'm ready to get started. Awesome. Awesome. And then you wrote here, I'm thinking of industrial/systems engineering. Any thoughts? Thank you. Yeah. Well, all I'll say is just if you're passionate about that and it makes you excited, do it. And don't listen to anybody else to tell you what you can or can't do in life. Just do what makes you most passionate in life. Do what you enjoy most. And as Confucius said, if you have an occupation you love, you'll never have a job for the rest of your life. And also, I wouldn't be careful about chasing money. I know we all need to survive. I get it. But if you chase money, you'll lose your dreams and maybe your money. But if you chase your dreams, as long as you're willing to fail at least a couple times, something wonderful happens. Your dreams come true and the money follows accidentally. It always does. So don't listen to anybody else except for yourself. Think with this first, and this will work a lot better. All right. And then Christian, I'm sorry, is saying a charity is a great idea. And thank you. You're most welcome. And earlier on in the webcast, Christian had asked me about, I think about starting a company. And if you've got that entrepreneurial bug in you and you work for somebody else, start a charity on the side. You get a lot of experience on how to start a company by starting a charity, and you're doing a good thing as well. We're here to serve others. Mr. Lee is saying, Chris, thanks for answering my previous questions. I'm from Hong Kong, and we're still fighting hard for freedom. Yeah, God bless you, man. God bless you. God bless all the freedom fighters there. I believe in capitalism, democracy, and this is the only point in my entire life when China is moving back towards communism slowly instead of the other way. So God bless you for standing up for human rights. Yeah. And then earlier on, I talked about the Concorde, and Christian said the Concorde lifted up over my house every day at 1 p.m. and entered supersonic speed. It was amazing as a kid. Yeah, it was an amazing product. It was. There was that one fire in Paris, though, which is why they took it out of circulation, I think. But I remember during Live Aid, which was a concert that David Geldof put on to basically help a lot of people overcome extreme poverty in Africa. But I remember during Live Aid 1985, there's a massive concert on the East Coast of the United States and in Wembley in the United Kingdom, the stadium. And Phil Collins, I remember, and he was a big deal then. He was awesome. He was even better in Genesis. But he performed at Wembley, and then he got on the Concorde and flew over to the East Coast of the United States to perform at Live Aid in the same day here in America. It was amazing. Yeah. Next up, Avi Pro is saying, if you want to be a millionaire in aviation, start an airline as a billionaire. Yeah. Dude, that is brilliant. I have to read that again. If you want to be a millionaire in aviation, start an airline as a billionaire. Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah. It's a tough industry, dude. Really, really tough industry. Yeah. And I really hope that Virgin Galactic becomes successful because I would love to fly to space one day. I love Sir Richard Branson. Love that guy. He always says, screw it, let's do it. Love that attitude. All right. And let me just do a quick time check. We got 15 minutes left. Okay, good. All right. Next up, we've got, whoops, I skipped something here. All right. Hold on a second, guys. Here we go. Tell you, man, this is week 104, and I still make mistakes. It's tough though. I try to do everything alone here. It's fun though. It's lonely being an entrepreneur sometimes, man. I remember my dad. He started a massive healthcare company in Canada. He had hundreds of employees. He did X-ray, ultrasound, nuclear medicine, mammography, all that stuff. And he sold the company. But I remember growing up talking to him about business. He started it in the 70s, and he said it's lonely sometimes when you do it yourself. And what I used to do to feel a little bit less lonely, running my own company here, was I would go to Starbucks to write my courses or the library. And or Paris Baguette, my favorite place. You can't do that anymore because of COVID. So it gets lonely, man. It gets lonely. But at least I got the kids at home. My kids are not allowed to go to school probably until next year now, here in California. But at least my kids are still here, and it's great to have them. Yeah. But I do get lonely doing this. All right. Next up here. And if I missed anybody, just post it again. Vasim is saying, just came to say good morning. Hope you're doing well. Christian is saying Naughty Dog and Rockstar are the best developers, hands down. I get everything, maybe NHL from EA, Electronic Arts. Yeah. And Naughty Dog Studios is great. They have an exclusive with Sony for the PlayStation for all of their content, especially the Uncharted franchise, which rocks. And The Last of Us. And of course, Rockstar Games is owned by Take-Two, ticker TTWO, which makes Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption. And Red Dead Redemption Part 2 is awesome. It was incredible. Love that game. All right, next up, I've got Isaac who's saying, I like your courses on Udemy. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Good morning to you too, Musa. And then Isaac is saying, is this a pre-recorded live? No, it's not. No. I mean, there might be like a 10-second delay for you guys, but no, it's here, yeah. But I do, when I put in just the little videos of my courses and stuff, obviously that was recorded over in Prague or, yeah, here in San Francisco. All right, Musa is saying, where can we get the link for the link to the public speaking course? Yeah. Just do a search on my name and the word public speaking, and you'll find it on various websites, especially Udemy, yeah. Or you can go to my website and do it, and there's a link to the course there. But just search my name and public speaking, it'll come up. Yeah. All right. All right, next up. And CNN sells my courses too. If you go to CNN's website, at the bottom there's CNN store, and you can get a lot of my courses there, and the public speaking ones there as well. Yeah. All right. And Avi Pro is saying, I have an idea about your video regarding the 747 and the captain scene. I would love to assist you if you wish. Yeah, give me your ideas, please. I'd love to hear it. Share them with me here, please. Thank you. And Avi Pro, for those of you not familiar, is a pilot from Sweden, and he's a techie too. Okay. Next up, we got Raul, who's saying, hi, Chris. Hope all is well with you. Likewise. I'm an architect, but I'm really interested in pursuing an MBA. Please suggest the best MBA specialization that would help me nurture my business in the field. Okay, so let me think about this. Architecture and MBA. Maybe an MBA degree in a school that also has great comp sci departments as well. Stanford might work out for you, or MIT. And you can take comp sci design courses. Or you can go to the Johnson School of Business, which is the MBA degree program from Cornell, which also has a wonderful architecture program. You can look into that. Yeah. And one of the students, actually, my MBA degree program went to Cornell. And I have a lot of students in my platinum program that went to top business schools as well. And they tell me they've learned a lot more in my program. Yeah. Okay. Next up is Michael, who's saying, thanks for sharing not only your business wisdom, but also so much of your personal life with us. You're most welcome. Thank you. What are your thoughts on public versus private funding for nonprofits? Yeah. I don't really have much experience in that area. I mean, I proudly serve on the board of the Limo Foundation out here. I was on the board of Providing Opportunities for Women, which one of my amazing students, Brenda, at San Francisco State created. But I haven't really done much funding. I've donated a lot of money to not-for-profits, but I haven't really done much work when it comes to funding. But what I will say is, whether it's a for-profit or not-for-profit, you have to make sure that you talk to a lawyer first before you accept a penny from anybody. Make sure that your lawyer creates for you offering memorandums or legal documentation, so that all risks, etc., are listed in the offering memorandum before you get a penny from anybody. Just to CYA, cover your, yeah. And Dr. House is saying, hey, Chris. Hey, man. Hope all's well. Okay. And then next up, we got Ramon, who's saying, regarding the point on cutting off people that lower your value, how about keeping them to help increase their value? Whoa, that's smart. That's smart. I've never thought of it that way. Yeah. It's so hard to maintain a positive attitude if you surround yourself with people that are very negative and bring you down. It's tough. It's tough. But you wrote here, yeah, God, that's tough, man. That's tough. I don't know. I mean, maybe if you're 1,000,000,000% positive, they're not going to bring you down. But if they bring you down even a little bit or make you less happy even a little bit, see ya, but I wouldn't want to be ya. Yeah. Next question is, how do you buy pre-IPO shares? Yeah. So there are certain companies like Second Market and others that sell pre-IPO shares. Just make sure that you understand what you're getting though. So there's two classes of shares. There's preferred shares and common shares. Preferred shares, as the name implies, give you preferential treatment. You don't get diluted as much. Common shares is the lowest of the low, which is why it's called common shares. And so just understand how much you might get diluted. Also, a lot of times, the board of a private company has what's called a ROFR, R-O-F-R. And R-O-F-R stands for right of first refusal, right? So a lot of times you have to get board approval before you can buy. So it's a little bit more complicated. And what I would do is if it's a significant investment for you, I would hire a lawyer to read over the agreement before you buy these shares. And just understand also that sometimes you become a stockholder in these private companies. Liquidity events take forever sometimes. And that's why there's government regulation to stop a lot of people from investing in venture capital firms or hedge funds unless they're accredited investors, meaning they meet a certain net worth threshold. Yeah. Okay. And Aishwarya is saying, hey, can you explain to us the business strategies used in the automobile industry? Yeah. I mean, it's a very capex intensive business. I'm not a big fan. Of the industry. I don't believe in investing or starting any companies where you have a big inventory risk, because inventory can destroy a business pretty easily, actually. In general, they focus a lot on advertising, and usually it's every 10 or 15 commercials you see of a certain car that might influence you to buy it. So there's so many overhead expenses. It's a really bad business. Not as bad as the airline industry, but it's usually a pretty tough industry to invest in. I've invested in the automotive sector all over the world. Probably one of the last ones I bought was Hyundai in South Korea because it traded below a price to book of one time. About 15 years ago or so. But I usually avoid that sector because of inventory concerns and very, very CapEx intensive. Yeah. It's hard, man. Like I just watched actually on television, I rented a documentary that Alec Baldwin was in on the DeLorean, the DeLorean car. And John DeLorean founded that company. He was a rock star at GM with the Pontiac brand, etc. He was amazing, and it was so hard for him to start his own company, and he did some unethical things as well. I won't ruin the movie for you. You can check it out. But it's tough. It is really, really hard to make it big in that sector. If you want inspiration, what I would do is watch the movie Tucker, which is with Jeff Bridges. It's a true story about a man who tried to take on the big three automakers. And he has a very positive attitude, but they muscled him out of the business. Yeah, it's a tough gig, tough industry. Yeah. All right. And next up, Melody is saying the public speaking course, Chris, is so valuable. Thank you. And then you wrote here, what are your thoughts on direct to Google or Netflix movie releases? Yeah. It's so Netflix has so much content that I don't really know what's good or what's not good. You know, I used to watch every movie with Adam Sandler in it, but he makes so many of them now on Netflix, and I don't think he spends as much money on them. And so the quality of the movies just aren't that great. It's hard to find a great movie on Netflix. You know, for every Bird Box, which is great with Sandra Bullock, there's a gazillion movies with famous people in them on Netflix, which are just not that good. Not that good. It's hard. It's hard. And I'm not sure if Rotten Tomatoes is involved with, you know, rating Netflix movies. But there's got to be a service to tell you what's good and what's not. And I really wish that Netflix would give you the star program as well, like 5 stars, 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever it is, to say if a movie is good, as voted on by people that watch the movie. You know, kind of like what Rotten Tomatoes does. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Yeah. In terms of direct to release movies, it's just a sign of the times. Just given COVID, the industry is being destroyed, so it makes more sense to throw stuff directly online, like the King of Staten Island, with that dude from Saturday Night Live, Pete Davis, I think his name is. Yeah, it's hard. But the next Bond movie, the last one with Daniel Craig, was supposed to come out this year. It's been delayed, well, because of COVID. Maybe they'll go direct to video. I don't know. But it'll be interesting to see how Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, the latest one, Part 3, does. Direct to video. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Even the Scorsese movie that he put on Netflix, it was good, but it wasn't as good as like Goodfellas or his other stuff. I find that Netflix movies some are good, but some are just lower quality, even if great stars are in them. Yeah. Yeah. In terms of proprietary content, I love Apple TV. Their movies are good, actually. Yeah. And there's a great show called The Morning Show on Apple TV. You got to watch it with Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston and Steve Carell. It's fantastic. But their content's amazing. And there's a show I got to show you because it's my favorite show now, and it cracks me up, man. It's on it's on Apple TV. Apple TV comedy. It just started. There's like a new episode every Friday. Here it is here. It's called Ted Lasso. It is hysterical. It's about this American football coach, like this kind of football, that goes over to England to coach their football, meaning soccer for Americans. And it's with Jason Sudeikis. He's hysterical in it. This is my favorite show now. It's really, really funny. It's every Friday they release a new episode. As of now, and if you're watching the replay, it's September 2020. There's only 5 episodes out, but I absolutely love it. It's great. It's great. Yeah. All right. Cool. And I got 2 more minutes, and then we're going to have to wrap it up. Okay. All right. Next up, and if I miss anybody's question, what you can do is just copy and paste it next week, please. Thank you. And if you're in my MBA degree program, one of my platinum or gold students, then our office hours starts at 11:15 a.m. today and lasts 2 hours. And then I've got one-on-ones, which is why I've got this timer up here. One-on-one meetings with my platinum students. Okay. Next up, Rahul is saying, I'm from India. I'm really interested in the technology field and the app industry in particular as well, but I'm confused about where to start. Please guide me about it. Yeah. So what I would say is do what you're passionate about. However, you can find out how to code quickly and get up and running by taking courses from Angela Yu or Rob Percival on Udemy. And I don't get brownie points for mentioning all this Udemy stuff. If my courses suck, which many of them do, they just won't sell. You know, it's educational Darwinism. But I would take courses from Angela Yu or Rob Percival. They're great. And they'll teach you how to code for iOS, Android, at least Percival's got those, as well as how to make websites. And it's fun too. And anybody can do it. So check out their courses. All right. And Avi Pro saying, I love Red Dead Redemption. It's the best game. Yeah, it is a fun game, man. It's awesome. It really makes you feel like you're in the 1800s in the United States. Yeah, 1899 to be exact. Yeah. Great character development. And then you wrote here, I'll connect with you over LinkedIn regarding the cockpit stuff, and we can take it from there. Thank you. Appreciate it. Now, Ramon is saying, by the way, I'm also a Buddhist lecturer. That's why I kind of think on a different edge. Oh, I love it. I love your insights. Thank you. And Cassandra, who goes by Tiger Glory. Oh, that's my alarm. So I'm going to have to wrap this up in a second. The last question I'll answer here is Cassandra's. And if anybody else has more questions, I'm so sorry I haven't answered them. But if you're my MBA, in my MBA degree program, the gold or platinum version, we're going to start office hours in 15 minutes. You can ask me there. Or if you're not enrolled in my MBA program, that's cool. Just copy your questions, save it, and ask me next week. So Cassandra is saying, Chris, you've not answered my question from earlier. Oh, I'm sorry. How to use, I must have missed it. You wrote, and by the way, if anybody includes a hyperlink or internet link, I don't see it because YouTube strips it out for whatever reason. So Cassandra is saying, how do you use the broker interface when you predict that the stock goes down? How do you trade that? Yeah. So I don't recommend doing it, but you can buy what are called puts. And puts basically, or you can short a stock, but don't short a stock because if you bet a stock is going to go down by shorting it, what happens is the losses can be infinite if the stock goes up a lot. But if you buy what's called a put, it means you invest a little amount of money. If the stock goes down, you make money. If the stock goes up, all you lose is that little amount of money. So you can look into puts. Okay, great. So I want to thank you all for your time. This has been a fun webcast. Within 24 hours, somebody on my team will take this webcast and they will take all the questions and index them into the description field. So you can click to get immediate access to answers to questions. Hopefully that saves you time. So for those of you that subscribe to my daily vlog, I'll see you every day on my vlog on YouTube. For those of you that are my MBA degree program students in the platinum or gold, I'll see you in a couple of minutes on our webcast. Otherwise, I will see you all next Thursday and every Thursday starting at 8 a.m. Thank you very much, and God bless you all and have a great weekend.